Okay, I think I'm live. Welcome to the stream. Joe Shabatoni, thank you for becoming or renewing your membership. What's up, Junk, South to West, ATF Media, JF? What a lineup of talent. Welcome to the stream. Good morning to Grace. I don't know what's going on with her. I haven't seen her. I don't think she streamed yesterday that I saw on Kick. Light relapse for methadone clinic. She had a couple beers. What else happened? Jedi Rich had an amazing... Oh my god, dude. Oh, whoops. What is the... Okay, there we go. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, anyway, that's all the updates I have for today, I think. I don't think I'd learned anything else. Yeah. I'm also going to do some videos for body cams, but stuff that like won't fit into the intoxicated women. I found some really great strange looking ones that don't fit there, but I still want to make videos for them, so I'll probably do that at some point in the near future. All right, well, today, what a lineup. Scottish ghosts, is that it? Or do you say Scotch? Is it Scotch? Is it Scotch ghosts? Satanism, witchcraft, vampires, hauntings, aliens, crop circles. I don't know, like, what else you could want. Anyway, let's get started. This is Season 2, Episode 7 of Sightings, Scotland's House of Horror.
Expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings, from the land that first celebrated Halloween, a Scottish castle that's terrorized locals for hundreds of years. Tonight, we send a team of paranormal experts to flesh out the ghosts of Scotland's House of Horror. Then, some claim real-life vampires still exist today. We uncover startling new evidence of the living dead.
Oh, and if you remember that, we watched that Juggalo girl, and then I forgot who it was. I found the video that it's on, so I just got to go back and figure out what her username was. But I found her, so we can check back in with her again. Lalo headed to L.A.
Special Halloween edition of Sightings. I'm Tim White. Tonight, you'll meet real-life vampires.
I mean, isn't that kind of like business as usual? I saw they were raising money again for another ticket for him.
And modern-day witches living right here in the United States. But first, Sightings travels to Stirling Castle, Scotland's reputed House of Horror. This Scottish castle is rumored to be the most haunted place on Earth. It's a fitting beginning, since the origins of Halloween can be traced back to Scotland in the 3rd century.
Scotland, Ireland, and Great Britain were home to the Druids, an ancient people who began the celebration of the holiday we now call Halloween. The Druids believed that Halloween, actually New Year's Eve by their calendar, was the one night of the year when spirits, both good and evil, were allowed to roam the earth.
You're out wandering around on the night on Halloween when the dead are coming back from the grave. You don't want them to recognize you because they might do something to you or they might take you back with them.
Good spirits were welcomed into Druid homes with treats. The evil spirits were bonfires and frightening masks. Later, jack-o'-lanterns were used to keep away evil spirits, but these talismans aren't always successful. At Stirling Castle in Scotland, more than 1,000 people a year report seeing and feeling evil spirits, and not just on Halloween. In fact, since Stirling Castle was first built...
So at Stirling Castle, an average of 3 people per day have a paranormal experience.
To defend the Scottish countryside in the 15th century, countless eyewitnesses have reported seeing ghosts, evil spirits, poltergeists, and demons.
I saw a shadow. No face, just a dark shadow in the corner. When I looked back again, there was absolutely nothing.
That's the thumbnail.
I've been walking around there at night and I felt a presence. I felt someone behind me.
Wasn't exactly on the ground. She was kind of floating. But she had
almost made her the thumbnail.
It definitely was a woman.
Very scary. Makes you cold. I know what I saw.
The best-known ghost in Stirling Castle is the Green Lady.
Yeah.
And she is said to be the spirit of a servant maid who saved Mary, Queen of Scots, from death in 1661 when the bed curtains caught fire from a naked flame, a candle held beside the bed. Her spirit is said still to haunt Stirling Castle today.
What we saw just at the corner of the graveyard, up at the foot of the castle wall, was a lady dressed in green. It seemed to be glowing. There were 7 or 8 of us ran up to see what was going on. I mean, covering 25 yards. There was nobody in either direction.
I can't think of any other castle who actually has a photograph of one of the ghosts. And we have a photograph of a Highlander here, marching out of the castle. And you can see straight through him as he comes in the archway.
We sent the photograph away, and it was tested, and it wasn't a double negative. Hadn't been superimposed on top of it or anything. So that's why we believe it was actually a picture of the ghost.
Trying to make contact with ghosts at a site such as Stirling Castle can be approached in several different ways by both scientists and spiritualists. We brought 2 separate investigative teams to Stirling, each operating independently, but both with the same end in mind: tangible evidence of at least some of the 100 ghosts rumored to live here. Internationally respected psychical researcher Tony Cornell came to Stirling from Cambridge, searching for scientific evidence.
One thing about the whole psychic field is it's full of contradictions. You can go to one case and say, oh, this is absolute rubbish. This is imagination. This is nonsense. You go to another one and you get a pearl of information. You say, well, we can't ignore this. So I should think, really, I'd say there are such things as ghosts. I've never seen one. I'd very much like to see one. Perhaps I might see one tonight. You never know.
Tony Cornell asked London's premier spiritualist medium, Glyn Edwards, to help him choose a good location for an overnight surveillance.
There's something here. There's definitely something here.
Here? What about over here?
Not so much here. Not so much here.
When we go out on an investigation, the kind of equipment we're taking is purely simply to confirm the physical presence of it. Is it in the mind of the person, or is it a real physical object? So what we do is we take equipment that will record any changes in the physical environment. Sound, sight, heat, geomagnetic.
These guys seem much less douchey than the other people. Is it maybe because they're drunk, so it's like they're just hanging out, having fun, looking for ghosts, versus like trying to... coming off like super serious? These guys just seem a lot different than the other ghost hunters we've seen.
It changes. Any form of electrical change. Because we don't know what makes these things occur. So we want to know, if we leave this stuff behind...
Whoa, he's got a nuke?
Do ghosts then appear? Or do they only appear because there's a human being there? Well, this is the kind of thing that we want to confirm with the instrumentation.
Oh, my God.
Cornell set up an infrared camera and a standard video camera to be left on all night. The next day, the video revealed nothing extraordinary, but the audio portion was startling.
Here we go. Everybody watch the hole.
No one was in the castle.
That's
the lone night watchman was far from the recording site. The nearest road was more than a mile away. Listen again for what sounds like moaning and screaming among the electronic static. Could these be the ghostly voices of Stirling?
Speaking of moaning in the background, did anybody else watch Ruby and Ava covering Hurricane Paro, where they were talking about his YouTube account? I went and looked up a video, and he was asking people, trying to figure out what the name of a song was. But then it had audio of a porno behind it. I don't know what's going on. The title of the video said, like, ignore the moaning sounds.
Stirling Castle's tortured dead. 2 days after the haunting sounds were recorded, Sightings brought in a second team, comprised of psychics and headed by paranormal researcher Malcolm Robinson. They hoped to find additional evidence of ghost activity.
Yeah, good luck.
Their investigation took place near the recording site in the castle's old prison, called the Toll Booth.
We go along and investigate these cases, speak with the people involved to ascertain if indeed there are something of a psychic nature happening.
This group of psychic investigators uses a controversial and often dangerous technique called spirit rescue. In a rescue, the psychics attempt to become temporarily possessed by any spirits that may be present. They believe the tortured spirits inside them can then be released into another dimension. On this night, world-renowned psychic Rosemary Todlin claimed one ancient tortured spirit had entered her body.
Yeah, it was kind of fascinating.
They were bringing me back. They were attacking me. They were bringing me back.
Rosemary appeared to be speaking as a centuries-old prisoner who had been tortured in Stirling Castle. While she was in her trance, other psychics attempted to liberate the supposed spirit from her and rid it from the castle.
This is what it's going to be like when I meet those witches.
You might never get another chance. This is your chance. This is your chance. This is your chance to be free once and for all.
This is your chance.
Spit it out if you have to. This is where you take that step through the door.
Should have taken the chance.
A bigger door beyond even that. A much greater door.
I don't care for the
filled with light.
Either, to be honest.
That I actually felt escape.
The power of Christ compels you.
I felt it physically and I felt it emotionally. And the pressure began to just evaporate from me.
Do you feel that the spirit has been released then from this room?
He's no longer here as far as I'm concerned.
So you're quite sure of this?
Yes.
Yeah. He wanted out, and he got an out. He got that door that he wanted.
Yeah.
There's no way to come back here.
We know there were torture chambers in the tall booth.
Hey, this is completely random. I think I remembered his name. I was thinking Gordon Ramsay, but it isn't. But I spent the entire weekend watching Gordon Ramsay. And if you guys don't know, the Hotel Hell official account on YouTube uploaded like every episode for like, you can just, every episode, full episode is up there. And they uploaded them uncensored. So this show about cleaning up hotels and kitchens has like a bunch of videos of Gordon Ramsay naked, like showering and weird shit like that in them. All the cursing is restored. It's great. It's really wild. It makes the show really wild. Oh, but I was thinking about Gordon Elliott. Remember that guy? He had like a daytime, or like it might have been an afternoon talk show for a while, but Gordon Elliott, I haven't thought about that guy in forever. I was thinking like, where's Gordon Elliott and all this? But he's Australian, I think.
And indeed, if they followed the practice of the country at that particular time, and indeed over many, many years, then there's no doubt there were thumb screws and practices within that toll booth to force confessions from the unfortunate inhabitants.
I think what we've had here is a little bit dubious. I mean, I get the feeling of...
What?
No, it's too melodramatic.
Of Hotel Hell?
Sincere, yes. But I don't think...
I saw the lady that bought an entire hotel just so that she could sing Cher to like a captive audience at dinner every night. Wasn't Gordon Elliott a NASCAR driver? I don't think... He was like a big... he seemed like a real tall guy. He had like I don't know. It wasn't really a controversial show. It was kind of like more serious, but it did have a little bit of like sensationalism to it.
It was correct.
Jeff
That's
Gordon.
not saying that there aren't things in Stirling Castle.
Jeff Gordon and Bill
Many
Elliott.
sane and sensible people have walked around and seen these things.
There may be conflicting views on the
Remember
merits
that
of
movie
spirit
Cars?
rescue,
What a great movie.
but Malcolm
I love that
Robinson
movie,
and his
Cars.
team of psychics believe that there is now one
What a
less
piece of
ghost in
tech-
Stirling
what a
Castle,
meeting of
that they have
technology and
relieved
art.
the suffering of one tortured spirit in Scotland's House of Horrors.
Coming up next, some claim real-life vampires still exist today. We uncover startling new evidence of the living dead. And later, a revealing interview with a modern-day witch.
Oh, shit.
On Halloween, the streets are filled with ghosts and goblins and vampires. But Sightings has discovered that at least some of those vampires aren't out there dressing up for just one holiday.
When it first,
we found people who are so obsessed with vampires that they've chosen to live as though they are real-life vampires.
Do you remember offhand, ATF Media, what season that was in? I think I've seen season 1. I watched season 2 over the weekend, but I haven't gotten into season 3 yet. I think I would have definitely remembered somebody shitting on the having diarrhea on something. George Durunda in Sightings. Talking about a crossover, Jedi Rich, whenever he was out at the mountain, he was like, "Is this how George would do it? I'm trying to be like George." And I was like, man, Durunda is everywhere.
Do vampires really exist? Bela Lugosi's theatrical vision of the vampire debuted in the film classic Dracula. Lugosi is the most...
Although, if you guys haven't seen it, if you get the DVD, you might even be able to get it separately, I don't know. But they included, like, I don't know, I think it was the Spanish version of Dracula on, like, the special edition of the original Dracula. Great version, too. Really good.
Popular image that we have of the nocturnal beast that preys on the living. Our reaction is a mixture of fascination and revulsion as Dracula thirsts for human blood.
Let me live, please! Punish me, torture me, but
Flavor of love.
Bram Stoker's Dracula from Francis Ford Coppola is the newest of nearly 2,000 Dracula movies produced worldwide. Evidence of our continuing fascination with the undead.
The undead would be someone who is pronounced dead, and at certain times the dead corpse reanimates and goes out with a thirst for human blood.
Yeah, okay, Vincent.
Recent studies by researchers at 2 major universities in the United States show that nearly half the adult
116 million people accept undead.
Population of the United States believe that the world of the undead, in some form.
Yeah, was it Mexican? Yeah, there was like, I thought it was really good though. I really liked it. I need to go back and I'm thinking about rewatching the all the Universal Monster movies. I thought I reviewed all of them, but I only did text reviews.
Is real. And that same research shows that our obsession with vampires is rising dramatically.
The vampire represents the darker side of human instinct. The vampire represents the semi-animal-like quality that is part of our nature, but which in the cultural process of growth and development, we have had to forego. Ordinary people go see vampires because they identify with a certain collection of characteristics that they don't live out, but which are ignited in what we would call their unconscious.
The Dracula character in Bram Stoker's novel was based on the 15th century Romanian warlord Vlad the Impaler.
116 million people saying that they accept undead. I wonder how it was it written that way though? I wonder if the question was like, do you think there's even a remote tiny chance that there's like, well no, because it says afterlife. So the afterlife people are the ones who are saying like, yeah, there could be a heaven or a hell or whatever. But the people who accept undead, what is that? Like they accept that like zombies and vampires and shit?
Stoker took the ancient myths about this notorious killer
I'm trying to figure out.
Elements of the supernatural.
What's up? It's me.
Rosemary, the historical Vlad the Impaler.
Like into their homes? Are they turning their homes into sanctuary cities for the undead? We accept you.
He was not a vampire.
Vlad Tepes was not a vampire. He was a real person, a 15th century Wallachian warlord who was a very cruel and despotic man. And Bram Stoker took him as the historical model for Count Dracula. There's only one existing account of him drinking blood, and it was the blood of one of his impaled victims. So this does not make him a vampire.
Do you really believe, Rosemary, that there are vampires, real vampires?
I do believe in the possibility of real vampires. I would call a real vampire a non-physical being, perhaps the spirit of a dead or some other kind of being that would attack the living during the day or the evening, almost what we would call a biting poltergeist.
Around the world, there are many cultures that believe that there are individuals who can fly out at night in some form. There is certainly a possibility that...
Like, back in this day, if you were a vampirologist, it's not like now where you can just, like, you can get on YouTube and claim you're a vampirologist and try to monetize it. Like, you had to actually, like, really get out there and do the work if you were trying to earn a living as a vampirologist. You know, if she was alone, she would have streamed just not to feel alone. I don't know. I did see that she didn't stream yesterday, though.
There are many other forms
of... I'm a couple days behind.
Energy. Many other forms of power that we just don't understand, that may form the basis of the vampire legend, and may actually form some kind of power for real vampires.
As people grow more frightened, and as the normal structures of life, society, economics become more uncertain, people get very fascinated by the supernatural.
Jedi Rich had a whole kind of interesting segment on Grace where he was thinking about going and meeting her, but only him. He wasn't gonna. Joy wasn't interested in going. She was doing something at home or something. But Rich had kind of a little fun segment talking about it, debating whether or not whether or not Grace would be interested in him.
And I would place vampires in a class like that.
LA post dinner date.
Sightings has discovered a subculture of people who worship and emulate the vampire lifestyle. Are these self-proclaimed vampires true devotees?
Vampiro.
Or do they merely have a morbid fascination with death? There's a growing body of evidence to suggest that these modern-day vampires may do more than simply pose as blood-drinking members of the undead.
That doesn't bother me at all. The only thing is, it's like, the biggest obstacle to me being super into what's going on is just Kick. I hate Kick. Although the LolCal Live stuff did kind of like dampen my interest in Boyd heavily, but I've managed to stay tuned in. But yeah, between LolCal Live and the move to Kick, it was just kind of like a pretty heavy like 1-2 punch for me.
Dead.
Whoops.
I believe in another type of vampire I call the living vampire. They'll go around attacking people, biting them on the neck, and drinking their blood. And my way of thinking, they're every bit as dangerous as the old...
I am interested to see, Junk, how the Lalo thing plays out after the big confrontation over the non-consensual touch, and then the War Chief updates.
Legendary type vampire.
In Chicago, Sightings met one member of the
Grace.
vampire subculture who insists he is a real-life vampire.
Most people consider me a vampire because I'm a blood drinker. I use blood to ensure my immortality
Alexis
in this world.
Vlad is a very interesting vampire. He's not quite like any other vampire that has ever contacted me or that I've ever studied. Vlad believes that there is a special kind of reaction he gets from the small amounts of blood that he takes.
Blood has a lot of powerful symbolism and has since ancient times. It's the life force, and anytime you consume the life force, then you enhance your own vitality. And blood also has an erotic aspect to it as well.
An erotic aspect.
I feel Vlad may very well be getting some kind of special insight, some kind of special feeling from blood.
Did any of the people you spoke with claim to be dead people who were kept alive by drinking blood?
None. In fact, almost all of them apologized for not being dead.
Vlad's lifestyle may seem more theater than reality, with his $1,000 handmade porcelain fangs and sculpted coffin. But the practice of blood drinking is not an act. Vlad believes it's proof of his commitment to vampirism. But to outsiders, it appears as nothing more than a desperate attempt for attention.
What I do and why I've done it I really don't care if any of you believe it or not. That's your problem.
Amazing.
Our long-standing fascination with vampires is well documented, but few people have carried out their fascination, drinking blood and living as vampires. What sends someone over the edge? Is it simply a need to stand out from the crowd? A deep-rooted desire for immortality? Or an unnatural need to participate in a world of evil?
To dream about vampires, to be attracted to vampires, for the culture to thrill to the idea of vampires is simply nature.
Well, if he's a vampire, he should have a bunch of money like the people in Twilight. Do you think there are poor vampires?
Although it may seem like pure theatrics to us, the self-proclaimed vampires that we interview insist that they have a real dedication to vampirism. Behavior experts argue that their dedication could be masking a psychological disorder. And they're asking the question, what deep need are people like these fulfilling by drinking blood and living as vampires?
Coming up, a startling sightings report on witches in America. Do they exist in your town, and do they threaten your family? A revealing interview with a real-life witch, next.
The Salem... I need to watch this. I got to really pay attention to prepare for my upcoming meeting with the coven.
Witch trials were a notorious part of our Puritan past, but witches and witchcraft are still alive and well in America today. Modern-day witches are a far cry from the evil broomstick-riding hags of popular culture. Today's witches are eager to dispel the myths that have plagued what they consider to be their religion.
If you're looking for pointed hats and green faces, you'll have better luck at your front door handing out Halloween candy to the neighborhood kids. Selena Fox and her followers are the real thing. Witches
thank you.
who make a point of celebrating nature instead of casting spells and concocting evil curses.
What's up, Rush Limbaugh?
With no beginning.
Calling herself a Wiccan priestess, from the Old English word Wicca, meaning witch or wizard, Fox practices what she calls a religion from rural Iowa County in Wisconsin. But the intolerance she finds today is not so different from that of the citizens of another small community 300 years ago, Salem, Massachusetts.
There was an accepted form of religious and political practice. Those who deviated from that, especially women who were outspoken and independent, were killed.
Here in Salem in 1692, 19 people were hanged. A man was pressed to death because he would not plead guilty or not guilty.
William LeMoy heads up the Essex Institute Library in Salem, which houses hundreds of actual court documents from the witch trials. Based on weak testimony supplied by hysterical witnesses, over 200 citizens of Salem were accused of being witches.
Petty jealousies, land disputes, grievances held for decades would all be brought into play. I think the underlying context for what happened was fear. When fear is the...
You know some energy vampires? Savvy guy would approve of the old Salem days. Oh, yeah, he'd just be like... He'd just say she wasn't... Well, he doesn't think any women are godly, so he would just turn in everybody. All right, see you later, Ember. What about energy vampires? What about someone who has a black mold vampiric aura, like OPC?
The fundamental emotion, you can expect irrational behavior. And when you get a group acting irrationally, watch out.
Joining us now from her farm in Black Earth, Wisconsin, is Selena Fox, a modern-day witch who prefers to be called a Wiccan minister. Selena, welcome to Sightings.
Thanks, Tim. Happy Halloween.
And happy Halloween to you, too. Selena, do you mind being called a witch?
I've used the word witch to describe myself and my practice of Wiccan spirituality, but I also use some other terms that are perhaps more specific about what I do. Wiccan minister is one, nature priestess is one, and those terms are more specific about the kinds of things that I'm involved in, which is spiritual ministry.
What do you think is the biggest misconception that most folks have about witches like you?
We are not involved with Satanism or the practice of evil. This is against our values, our ethics.
Steal his soul through the camera? Is he Amish? What's up, Laughing Cedar? Oh, you think she spiced up the name like they do for wrestling? She should have said she was from Parts Unknown.
Certainly back in the early days in Salem, witches were persecuted. Does that persist? Is there persecution now?
Persecution has not ended in America and other parts of the world for people that are involved not only in witchcraft, but other nature religions. I would like to see persecution and intolerance against our people end.
Most people have...
She looks like a kind person, like a genuinely like compassionate woman who would like, you know, gently rub your back while you're nutting.
Have stereotypes, Selena, about witches, people like you. Where do those stereotypes come from?
Some of the stereotypes that we have today around the word
OPC
witch
would definitely
really
switch
come right out of
sure.
Wizard of Oz. The word witch is being used by people who are practicing a religion that do not look in any way like the Wicked Witch of the West, and certainly don't have those kinds of practices.
Well, here it is, Halloween now, Selena. Why is Halloween so important to witches like yourself?
Halloween is our new year. We not only pay our respects for the dead, especially family and friends that we have known and loved in this life, but it's a time of looking ahead to the year to come.
I don't understand.
Selena Fox, thank you.
So she's just saying like Halloween, you celebrate like they celebrate like that's kind of the end of the year for them? Or is she saying like it's on the scale of New Year's Eve? Because I would have thought she said would say something more like one of the bigger holidays. But is that just like a calendar thing because of the harvest?
And happy Halloween. We'll be back with more sightings in just a moment.
To report your paranormal experience, call the Sightings hotline at 1-900-740-SIGHT. That's 1-900-740-SITE. Each call 75 cents a minute. Average call at...
If you're a witch and you'd like to tell us about your witchcraft life, please call this 900 number for 75 cents a minute.
It's 2 minutes and you must be 18 years or older. Again, the Sightings hotline is 1-900-740-7483.
It's the wheel of the year.
Join us next time for new investigations into the unexplained. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
What a great episode. Vampires, witches, Henry Winkler.
Tomorrow, witness a high-speed chase more exciting than...
Okay, now this one might be a little bit wild. Better buckle up for this one,
The following program deals with controversial...
So this one is about satanic ritual abuse, which I'm assuming we're going to hear the stuff like from the Satanic Panic, the like repressed memories, and then also the Garden Grove Ghost, Season 2, Episode 8.
Subjects, and due to its explicit nature, parental guidance is strongly advised. The theories, opinions, and beliefs expressed are not the only possible interpretations. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings, we rip the cover off America's epidemic of evil.
I did not kill my girlfriend.
Oh boy.
My master Satan did.
From possessed killers to satanic rituals.
Did you ever kill?
Yes, I had to kill a number of people.
Then our special ghost investigation uncovers a sinister poltergeist terrorizing a California family.
Oh, that's when the veil is the thinnest. I'm gonna set one up that's asking for people's opinions on Star Wars and then charge like $5 a minute.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. Most people agree that evil exists in this world. For some, it's war.
It also keeps people laughing Cedar. I mean, I'm sure people still just sent them shit, but it gives them like a catch-all to just be like, hey, listen, because of volume of material we're receiving, everything has to go through the phone number.
Or famine or violence.
Rack up a few
for some,
extra
it's a
bucks.
spiritual darkness. And for others, evil is a very real presence.
I don't know what Alex
physical
Jones
entity
really thinks.
of terrifying power. Tonight, Sightings investigates what many people believe is an epidemic of organized evil operating underground.
What is evil? Is it merely a dictionary definition, morally wrong or bad? Or is it something more, a deeper, darker force that makes people perform cruel and inhuman acts? Does an evil force really exist that can attract and then control the actions of human beings? Or is evil nothing more than a convenient excuse for deviant and destructive behavior? These are questions without easy answers and are continually debated by those who study the human mind and the human spirit.
Everywhere in the world we've seen cruelty and things that are vicious and things that are anti-human, and that somehow
Anti-human.
that's the kind of the opposite of the affirmation of life.
The great mass of human misery is caused.
Yeah, that's true, but you can still participate, Laughing Cedar. You can still be part of like I mean, unless they're really strictly enforcing it. Usually they just say like, we'll give priority to, you know what I mean? But yeah, I do agree. I mean, that's pretty much the entire purpose of a show like Sarah the Tomato, is to cover topics that you know are going to make people mad and then charge them to, you know, sound off against these pundits you bring on. Nothing wrong. I'm not saying anything negative or anything.
But by the stupid beliefs and actions
Henry Winkler
engage in.
A human being has power in this world to do what he or she wants. And if what you want to do is evil, you can do terrible things. We have to decide to be good or evil. No one else makes that decision.
We're exposed to evil every day. Robbery, kidnapping, even murder have become tragically commonplace on the evening news. We've become anesthetized to the evil around us and have even embraced it in mass media. Friday the 13th is one of the most successful movie series in history. The evil Freddy Krueger has even become
What's
a
up,
folk
Russell
hero.
Plunge?
But then there is evil that will never be trivialized in media. Hitler, architect of Nazism and the mastermind of the Holocaust. Stalin, butchered 40 million. Cult leader Jim Jones, who led 900 into mass suicide. Jeffrey Dahmer and Charles Manson. What drives people like these to the depths of evil? Many believe that they are
Henry
vehicles
Winkler?
for the devil.
Today, Satan is free to go and do within
I met Jerry Falwell
limits,
when I was a kid.
whatever he pleases.
I did not kill my girlfriend.
Troll-
My master, Satan.
Trovolo.
Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub. Whatever this force is called, it's been the inspiration for madmen whose victims pay the ultimate price. At Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas, sightings...
I agree. I mean, I think it's definitely a good business plan to have to do a controversial topic and charge people to talk. But to me, I wish there was an IRL way to do it. Like, I wish that, but with real, not with like rando YouTubers, but like with real, like people, like a new Morton Downey kind of show with like an arena feel.
Investigated the claims of one murderer who maintains that the devil made him do it. The supreme...
It's actually kind of weird. It was like when they had PTL, which was like the Christian... It was supposed to be this Christian Disney World, and they basically just fleeced a bunch of people out of money. But if you were a certain tier in the membership, you got to, like, instead of having breakfast with Mickey or whatever, you got to attend a breakfast with like the Bakers, and Jerry Falwell was like their right-hand man at the time. So it's kind of definitely strange.
Evil spirit he calls Satan.
Christian Water Park.
I didn't choose to kill my girlfriend. It was done by the influence of the demon. I believe that Satan wanted her to die.
April 20th, 1991. While Angela Singer, a known prostitute, was out working, David Trevillo, nicknamed Damien, was in this motel room conjuring up what he believed to be the devil.
I started uttering an incantation to Lucifuge Raphael. I felt him enter me.
He looks like Mark Borchardt that
into
made
the
that
spirit
movie
world and brought it back out with
Coven
me.
about
I started speaking
from that documentary American
in tongues
movie.
I didn't understand. When my girlfriend came back, she got cold chills as soon as she walked in the door.
David Trevillo stabbed Angela Singer 39 times and insists that...
Yeah, I'm a lifetime member of PTL. I don't know where my card is. I probably lost it somewhere over the years, but I used to have a membership card, even though it closed like super quick and it was only around for like a very brief window of time. I had a lifetime membership.
Demonic supernatural forces were at work. But is that a defense anyone is willing to accept? Clinical psychologist Ralph Underwager believes there is nothing paranormal about Trevillo's heinous acts.
No, I would never deny that Satan exists. What I would deny,
oh boy,
most vehemently, is that he has any power whatsoever to control or to direct or to possess human beings.
Imagine this guy cutting a promo on Eddie Marlin about how he doesn't have the right to make his wrestler defend his title.
Don't blame me. The devil made me do it. And that is pure, plain, unadulterated balderdash.
Yet law
Victim of
enforcement
Satan.
agencies nationwide, from the largest metropolitan areas to the smallest precincts, report that they are encountering what may be an epidemic.
I wish
of
we
evil.
could watch those
For many
movies
of
on
them,
here.
the concept of Satan is very
The West
real.
Memphis
It's
shit.
like you or I would believe in God. They believe in Satan. And some officers don't believe it. It's just ghost stories to them. I myself, I've personally seen cases. It's not only a local problem for a small department such as mine, it's a national problem.
He opened Jurassic Park.
David Trevillo may not be the
He
boy
had a lot
next
of
door,
a lot of
but is he
gravitas
the
to
servant
him. I
of a
liked him.
greater evil he calls Satan? Whatever the cause for his actions, he is now a convicted murderer, sentenced to 40 years to life.
I lived through it too.
It's not the fault of
unfortunately.
illness.
Well, I mean, I'm
it's not the
fortunate
fault
that I
of
lived through it, I
Satan.
guess, but I
It's
wish
the
I
fault
didn't
of
have
the human
to.
heart.
As horrible as
We're
Trevillo's
about to-
crimes
we're
may be,
buckle up.
there are people who believe there is
It's
another,
gonna get.
even more
We're gonna have a.
sinister
We're
kind
gonna
of
have a
evil.
similar.
Groups of people who gather for the purpose of performing brutal, sadistic rituals in the name of the devil.
Despite the testimonies of victims, many people
We'll ride
still
this next
don't
one out
believe
together.
devil worship takes place. Instead of listening to the victims, they want proof of satanic sightings. What's your situation?
Uh-oh, Bob Larson.
My father was high priest of a cult.
My arms were tied above my head, and I was hung from a pole and swung out over a pit, and in the pit were bones and snakes.
I was punished with a knife.
What do you mean punished with a knife?
I had to cut my own hand as a punishment. I have a scar on it.
Syndicated radio talk show host Bob Larson is heard daily on over 250 stations. He reaches out to survivors who believe that they've been the victims of violent satanic rituals.
Bob
Rituals
Larson,
that are
did he
so
die
brutal
of,
and bizarre, they
hold on,
border
check.
on
I think I remember that
unbelievability.
Let me tell you.
Did he die recently?
I have been there and worked for hours and hours with hundreds of victims who have been through this. They're not all liars. They're not all making it up. They're not all crazy. They're not all psychotic. Something's going on here.
Husband and wife counseling team Dr. Walter and
No,
Linda
he's
Young
alive. He's
are the
80
leading
years old.
pioneers in treating victims of ritual abuse.
Oh, boy.
Linda and I work in this field together.
He's got a YouTube channel. Well, I guess this guy had him on. How to Cast Out Demons Effectively with Bob Larson.
And obviously we have to deal with what it's like day in and day out.
Hold on,
to
let me
work
look.
with
Bob
people
Larson
who've been
Network.
traumatized to this extent. And I would have to say that when we're talking about issues of ritual abuse, where patients are talking about murder, or they're talking about sacrifice or their own rapes and things of this sort, it really takes
Look at
its
that
toll
wig.
because of the sense of the unbelievability of how they survived it.
I've heard of babies being killed, people delivering babies prematurely, or full-term babies that have been sacrificed, and satanic rituals where people are married to Satan and impregnated by someone or a group of people. Again, no one wants to hear that. It's too horrific.
Yeah, I can't find his net worth, but he does sell exorcisms. He's willing to he'll do anything he'll do any exorcisms for money. Which is interesting because is he like an official guy that's like with the church, like the Warrens at least I think got Vatican approval
for the population
or church approval.
Barbara Jackson is a scientist with a PhD in biochemistry
Adrenochrome.
and a former instructor at Harvard Medical School. She claims to be a survivor of satanic ritual abuse. For Barbara, memories of childhood torture
Satan
didn't
is Grace's
surface until
father.
she was an adult. Her stories of abuse follow a pattern exactly like those of other survivors Barbara has never met. Coming forward has taken immense personal courage.
On a night when there was going to be a ritual, what would happen?
People would start arriving, and they would have robes, and I would just be brought into the basement, and the basement is divided into two halves. One half is open. That's often where the table that the child or the animal would be put on to be hurt. I remember one time being...
It's because there was like a blueprint for it, and I mean, once they figured out the repressed memories, you started to see the same stories over and over there. I think this is just, these people are strange.
Put on this table that they were using, and they would hurt me with a metal crucifix.
What is evil for you?
Evil feels to me like a force.
Barbara, many people who might be very sympathetic
I'm special.
with you
Satan chose
would
me.
Simply not believe you. How could anything this horrendous occur?
We already know that things this horrendous have occurred routinely throughout the world.
Claims of being raped by crucifixes.
Here we go.
Or being crucified oneself are hogwash. The best bet for any reasonable person is to see this as a perfervid fantasy of a twisted imagination.
Wow.
As you might imagine, many of the people I interviewed were extremely reluctant to come forward. And those victims remain afraid of...
Well, and like these Satanists are so powerful, and right, and they have all these connections, and you can't go against them, and they're evil. They're able to possess human beings, yet there was nothing they could do to keep this woman from talking on a syndicated television show. Like, I don't understand the logic at all.
Retaliation by their abusers and ridicule by a skeptical public.
Looks at the realities of human trafficking. It's a really interesting documentary, and it also has Dolph Lundgren in it, so that's kind of a bonus.
So
it's really, really dark, though.
Horrible. They seem almost unbelievable.
And in fact, there are
What's
experts
up,
who
Randy?
question whether the evil of satanic cults is fact or fantasy. In truth, real physical evidence is lacking. But how or why would anyone invent such disturbing stories?
Oh, see, my mind right now, I'm watching this show, I'm just thinking of the people who blame everything on Satanism and vampires and all that kind of shit. Human trafficking is real, but the idea that it's being run by like a network of Satanists is, you know, I don't believe that at all. That's based off of like countless documentaries and looking into nonprofits and stuff like that. It's just, there are real stories. And I think whenever people talk about this other shit, like if it's being done seriously, it's like, it really lessens the, it's essentially doing what Junk was talking about earlier, saying like, walk across the tightrope. Oh, well, there's human trafficking, but it's all Satanists and they're doing this and all this other stuff. That makes people think like, well, this is all bullshit, and it takes attention off of the real things that are happening, which are much worse than, you know, probably the stories we're hearing, but people ignore it. A lot of people ignore it because it's all attached to all these conspiracy theories. You know what I mean? There's real, actual crime that could be focused on. It just isn't, it doesn't politically or socially serve people, so they want to like ignore the reality of it.
Current furor over satanic cults is foolish.
Yeah, I would say it happens for money and also just for like, just human cruelty, like, in my opinion.
For a very simple reason. There is no corroborating evidence of any sort that has ever been found.
Connie Valentine is a survivor who holds a master's degree in rehabilitative counseling. She works with other survivors who remember the same types of...
I mean, we have huge, obvious, quantifiable sources of child endangerment and abuse. Two huge ones that no one can argue, no one can debate even, because the evidence is overwhelming, which is the foster care system and the Catholic Church. Yet basically nothing is being done in those things, yet you hear a million stories about how there's something going on in the basement of a pizza place. Like there are literally like institutions that have years and decades and sometimes even longer of like provable, quantifiable abuse, and it's, you know, brushed aside.
Ritual abuse Connie believes she herself has endured.
Not politically viable.
It needs to be stopped. Somebody needs to say it. I figure the worst they can do is kill me. They've certainly tortured me an awful lot, and dying doesn't frighten me anymore.
Did you ever kill?
Yes, I had to kill a number of people when I was young.
How did you do that?
I had to put knives in their stomach. Many times they would put their hand around my hand, and they would put the knife in and let me know that this was my fault.
Was someone or something always killed?
Almost always.
What is evil to you?
I always used to think that Satan was a figment of somebody's imagination. The more survivors I talk to, the more people are reporting they witnessed that entity in their memory.
An evil entity, an evil force. Survivors believe they've...
We can't rule it out, Laughing Cedar, but if you have like thousands upon thousands of provable cases against real life people who have names, faces, we know who they are, we know where they're at, why not focus on that, on something that's literally there's no evidence to back it up? Like, it's fine if people want to be like, of course, maybe whatever percentage of people are Satanists, but why focus on this tiny percentage that might be there when you have you have two huge groups that are actively engaging in this openly, and nobody seems to care. You know what I mean? Like, why chase down the tiny number, and why would you step over like tens of thousands of kids? And the answer, I think, I'm not saying this is the case for you, but I think the reason it's for most people is because they don't want to, it's not politically or socially manipulatable to use those two. You know what I mean? But I mean, there could be, but let's take care of the people that are actually doing it on a large scale. And then you can go and hunt down, you know, Beth Hilda or whoever that's running like a coven of baking children or whatever.
Experience that force firsthand. But while there is a frightening similarity to stories from people who have never met, an argument can be made for the persuasive power of suggestion. Is satanic ritual abuse real?
Well, that's okay.
Or is
You're
it false memory
completely
produced by...
If you think it's all driven by a satanic thing, that's fine. But that if you really believe that, though, it means that Satanists run the Catholic Church and all of Christianity, which, where do you go from there? Like, Catholic and Christian churches have deep, deep histories of abusing children up until modern era. So if Satanists are driving it, then we have to shut down all Catholic and Christian churches, right?
Therapists.
To have recovered repressed memories.
So I'm fine with that too, by the way. That's...
To have flashbacks to events that they never knew about before and had no memories of before, that I say,
well, up
yes,
until now, I mean, they're continuing to do it.
Indubitably is a false memory, and that those events never occurred.
I think we're training more and more.
They're not actually Catholic. Well, I see that's a convenient excuse of religion. And Ben and Grace have pointed this out many times when people have told Grace, like, hey, you can't do X, Y, Z and then claim you're a Christian. And she says, no, it's perfect to do that. That's the benefit of being a Catholic or being a Christian to some people, is that they can then hide behind. And then it also lets religious people off the hook by saying, like, yeah, I go to church with these people. I'm part of their social group. I'm part of their political group. But, like, they're not really a Christian. You know what I mean? That guy who debated, we watched a debate a while back. I can't remember who it was, though, but they were making that argument that you couldn't hold any religious people responsible because those were bad actors. But, like, if you don't drive bad actors out of your group, you are a bad actor, in my opinion, if you're going to make claims about, like, being good people or whatever.
Therapists to know how to treat these people. And I think more and more people really are willing to take that challenge to go back in time and feel the pain.
Do you feel your life was ruined by this?
No, I feel my life path was permanently altered. But it's possible to live through it, transcend it, live with the after effects, and interact very richly with life.
Well, and whether, like, regardless of what your politics are, like, if if you're really about saving kids and helping kids, like, you have to recognize that there are groups that involve people from all across the political spectrum involved in it, and people don't want to do that because people identify so strongly for some reason with a party or with a certain politician, like, they'll ignore anything bad in their group. And I mean, that just erodes everything, in my opinion.
Life to reconnect with people, with spirituality, with all the things that...
I think it's inevitable, Junk, that a lot of good things get infiltrated by bad people. Like, I agree 100%. I think anytime you have something good and it's, like, positive, people are going to look at it and say, like, okay, this is a good thing. How can I use this to my advantage? Absolutely. It's like it's an unsolvable mystery of, like, building any kind of, you know, societal structure.
Have meaning because they can't take that away.
Joining me now is Gretchen Passantino, who has been researching the occult and satanic ritual
But they
abuse
won't,
for
Laughing
more than
Cedar.
20 years. An author and lecturer, Ms. Passantino heads an educational organization whose purpose is to debunk the notion that Satanism is an organized force. Gretchen, welcome to Sightings.
Thank you very much, Tim.
As you know, I had an opportunity to speak with people who believe themselves to be survivors
Suffering
of ritual
is used
abuse.
in the
Their
ritual,
stories
like
were
on...
compelling. They certainly believed what they had been through, but you're not convinced.
I think there was a
Why?
horror movie about
Well, Tim,
that.
I'm very glad that you brought out that these adult survivors believe what they're saying, but I believe that a much more reasonable explanation that fits the evidence better is that they have been given the wrong tools for knowing the truth and knowing the past through directive, contaminated therapy that tells them that images in their minds are actually memories of things that have actually happened to them.
So you think it's all power of suggestion then on behalf...
Could there be? I mean, of course there could be. There could be anything. Like, absolutely. But if you're telling me that, like, for the entirety of the Catholic Church, for its entire existence, where it's behaved in this same manner up until modern time, that all of that was because of an outside interfering group, that doesn't register with me. Like, I'm not saying it's like people can believe whatever they want to. I don't believe that an outside group infiltrated the Catholic Church and then has dominated it and done all these terrible things in its name, and nobody within the Catholic Church was like, hey, you know, get out of here.
For the therapists who are trying to help them?
I think it's more complex than simply power of suggestion. They come up with things that they are told are repressed memories, and yet they actually are not.
What would be convincing evidence?
Well, I think you would have to take it on a case-by-case basis. I'm not saying that there are not evil people who sometimes do very evil atrocities to other people, but what I'm saying is unsubstantiated, directive, contaminated therapeutic testimony is not the best way to find reality.
What if they're right, Gretchen?
But if you come into the organization, let's say you're good in the Catholic Church, and you've got a group coming in that wants to use the church to harm children, and they just happen to arrive really close to the founding of the church, right? Once they brought that up and they harmed a child, wouldn't you remove them from the group? Or would you just send them to another church and hope that nobody notices? Would you get rid of people who were actively harming others in your group, or would you simply cycle them around? We've seen what the Catholic Church does. That's all I'm saying. That's not the work of an outside group. That's a basic way of functioning for the Catholic Church. And if they allowed those things to at any point, a bunch of the people from the church could have come together and said, we're not going to stand for this, and they never do.
And you're wrong.
If the sensationalism of the satanic ritual abuse scare is true, then logic doesn't matter, evidence doesn't matter, investigation doesn't matter. The psychotherapists have become the priests, the new religion. I'm not willing to accept that. I don't think it's reasonable.
Gretchen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will be back with more sightings in just a moment.
Coming up next, our special ghost investigation uncovers a sinister poltergeist terrorizing a California family.
It's kind of like a Discord. Like, you can always tell when a Discord is starting to fall off, and you'll have some people who take the steps to, like, you know, prevent that, and then they're like, not everybody does that though. But like everybody knows, like, oh, things are changing. There's a new presence here that's like impacting things. You wouldn't just let it steamroll your organization or your religion. That would be kind of weird to me.
I'm not sure I would want to stay here.
In the episode of Sightings, we introduced you to the Mock family, who had contacted us about a ghost haunting their home in Garden Grove, California. We asked professional ghost hunter Lloyd Auerbach to conduct an investigation for us. And tonight, we follow Lloyd into the Mock home to watch the process step by step.
In this quiet,
that's why
comfortable suburb of
gatekeeping
Los
is
Angeles,
important.
Anita Mock, her daughter, and her cousin have all reported encounters.
I would just think, to me, like, if I worked in the foster system and I was seeing abuse and no one was doing anything, I would just have to leave and, like, tell my story if that's all I could do. But at a certain point, and it's the same way in a church too, if you're seeing, like, oh wow, we keep sending all these priests in my particular religion that are abusing all these children to all these different places, like, at a certain point, you're okay with it if you stick around, because otherwise you would exit. It's such a huge thing too. It's not like a TV show or you're disagreeing with someone about like a zoning issue. Like, these are human lives, and like, large groups of people don't give a shit. So I don't think it's an outside or anything like that, no.
With two distinct entities in their home. One, a ghostly apparition dressed in white with beady, glowing eyes. The other,
when they move the people around, well, yeah, that's because the Catholic Church is corrupt. Not because of an outside entity, but because it's foundationally corrupt. It's not a new thing. It's not a temporary thing. You know what I mean? Like, you would think a huge portion of the church would just be like, we've seen it in the past, right? Like, people will see things that their church is doing, and they'll break off from that church and form a new religion or a new sect. But like, the Catholic Church doesn't do that.
Mischievous poltergeist in the back bedroom.
My little girl's hysterical, and I can't do anything. I feel so weak, so helpless.
Yeah, that's what I said. They do the same thing in the government. They do the same thing in police. They do the same thing in everywhere. that's the point. So like there's so many actual problems happening is why I don't really think about whether or not a flying, you know, spaghetti monster is responsible for all these, for whatever, because I can see with my eyes and with facts and with history and documents and all that kind of stuff that there are clear giant operations causing damage. So I don't really think about like, I don't really think about what's going on, you know, in the dark corners of whatever. Like, I think if you've got tens of thousands of kids that are in danger, like that's, you don't step over that to say, well, this might be outside actors coming in. I just think people do that when the facts disagree with their worldview a lot of times, in my opinion.
And I don't know what to do.
After my initial visit, Lloyd Auerbach brought his team into the mock home. While he took magnetic field readings, therapist Karen Husing tested the family.
Every cop is a bad one. I mean, that's a chaotic truth or Sarah the Raging Tomato debate.
We literally have things happening that don't always mesh together. Normally, when you see an apparition in a case, you don't normally also have physical object movements. So this is kind of a mixed bag.
If you're in the Catholic Church and you're not aware of the Church's history with abuse of children, you're willingly ignorant. There's no way that you could be in America anyway and not be aware of the Catholic Church's reputation for abuse. There's no way.
Case that we'll have to take a little closer look at through a process of interviewing and checking out the house itself.
Where was it when you heard the sound? Was it flipped over like that?
Flipped like this.
Okay, so it really wasn't easy to get at anyway.
No.
I'm getting an anomaly, and we are correlating these anomalies to the spots that people are sensing or seeing apparitional or haunting phenomena, hearing things.
What's good or bad or evil or whatever, like, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just giving my perspective on why I don't believe certain, or why I don't prioritize a satanic band of witches when I have an entire like church that's actively abusing people. But like, what's good or bad is up to each individual person. Obviously millions of people are okay with one and not the other, and you know, kind of, you know, I'm willing to focus on the bigger issues, and some people can say, well, that's a problem because you're ignoring the possibility of a small issue. But ultimately it's up to each person to decide what you're willing to you know, tolerate in your groups.
What could the family be experiencing? We found that the house did have a history of domestic violence and untimely death prior to the time the Mocks moved in.
Well, actual ones, unfortunately.
Before turning their case over to Sightings, Anita had asked a priest to bless the home.
I think the problem, Laughing Cedar, is that you keep bringing up things that are unrelated. I don't care. We're not talking about Muslims or atheists. I'm in America. And I'm just saying the reason that, like, you're really focused on these Satanists that are doing these things, and that's fine. That's your thing. But why I don't think about that is because there are, like, provable, quantifiable, long-term, well-funded groups harming children that are much more easy to target and much easier to take on if you wanted to, if you were so inclined. So, like, what other people are doing is irrelevant to me. But I agree with you. Anyone who's religious, you know, there's a lot of abuse within Muslim stuff, but that's not like, that's just basically, I feel like you're either Catholic or you're something. I don't know. I don't know why you're defending the church so heavy, but I mean, to each their own.
Home, but the entity remained.
He blessed the house. He went around here really quick.
Jesus being at one,
when he
that's
was done,
that's
all he
just up
told
to
me
each
was,
person.
That I need to go back to church.
I think if you associate the fact that I don't think Catholics should abuse children means that I haven't anything to do with Jesus is irrelevant to me. Like, the two are not connected. If Jesus is the real person and feels that way, there would be no churches, and certainly not in the United States. I mean, he would immediately vanquish all of them. But the fact that there is a long and a deep history of child abuse in the Catholic Church, to me, doesn't reflect on Jesus, because he's, you know, what's he going to do about it at this point?
In addition to Auerbach's team, we asked psychic Sylvia Brown to record her impressions in the house. Sylvia had strong, unsettling...
Well, and we're 100% headed for another one. It definitely feels like to me. over the past few years. I think people have been gearing up for it.
Yeah, see, this room also has, Anita, some activity. When I first came into the house, I felt this tremendous amount of violence, physical violence, glass cracking, noise. Then there's a murder, a killing, blood, somebody's face slashed. We have a case here of layer upon layer of poltergeist, haunting. I'm not sure I would want to stay here.
But there are people living here, and they don't want to
You got to remember, too, a pretty high level of trafficking on a global level is for labor.
be forced out. In addition to the poltergeist activity, they're still plagued by encounters with the apparition in white.
It was wearing white, and it was peeking around the door, and it had like its hands on the door.
She grabbed my daughter because she was afraid to look up at her.
Right.
She was afraid, because it looked solid. She was afraid it was going to come out and get her.
And this is the very spot where Heather said she saw the ghost. So normally, what this house is reading is 1 milligauss, normally. But this is going up as high as 2.5 milligauss and 3, and that's, double or almost triple what you're experiencing the rest of the house.
Boyd's magnetometer measures the level of electromagnetic energy in milligauss. Do the unusually high magnetometer readings he's getting here explain why apparitions, poltergeists, slamming...
I mean, to me, you can't argue religion with a religious person if you're not religious, because you're coming from such different worlds, and like, you just can't, when it's about what you personally believe but you can't prove, like, that's a difficult argument to have. I just think it always ends up with like hurt feelings.
Doors and spinning clocks have all been reported in the house. Or does an answer lie in the minds of the family? In a state of deep relaxation, Heather Waieda recalls the apparition under hypnosis.
This entity that you have seen in the house, we'd like to invite him to join you so that we can communicate.
Karen,
I think he's here. Is there something that he wishes to communicate? That he's not trying to hurt me or my family.
Does he know how he died?
He said he doesn't like to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
A good way maybe would be look at political voting records of people who are lowering age of consent, lowering age for getting married, lowering age for working. Look at the politicians that are voting for that kind of stuff and get rid of those people. In my opinion, if like child safety is like the highest priority.
Is there anything else that he did that he could tell us about? He said he's sorry for hurting Amanda when he tried to pick her up.
We just had a hypnosis session. I thought to come in here and check the reading which we were getting. And most of the house reads between 1 and 1.5 milligauss, which is what we're now reading here in this spot. I mean, before the hypnosis session, I was reading between 2 and 2.5. Maybe a coincidence, but actually it's very interesting to me that we have resolved the situation. The ghost is supposedly going...
Hear me out, South to West. How about a dono goal for Ben and Grace? And they can bring in Bob Larson to do an exorcism for hire.
Away, and there's no longer a high reading.
Since our first report on the Garden Grove haunting, another viewer called the Sightings hotline with an important new lead. He told us that in 1987, his mother, Winnie Rawls, died traumatically in this house.
When I walked in here by myself before we began this filming, and I was able to talk out
Mother
loud
died in
to her,
house.
I felt a distinct presence. I don't feel that anymore. It's different now. Something is different. I think that she might be free. I think that she needed to be told by me, and my great fear coming to do this at all was that my mother somehow was trapped and couldn't get away and was unhappy. And I thought, well, if I come and see and can talk to her privately, which I was able to do, maybe she would let go.
Bill Rawls believed that the spirit of his mother was looking for a way out of this house. But the Mocks believe they're being pursued by a male entity. Could these be the two distinct entities felt in...
You want them to go to see a psychic so that they can summon Sylvia Brown, and then what then? What's Sylvia Brown gonna do?
The house.
Definitely, there is a female spirit in, what should I say, residence here.
This lady is.
Yes.
Wow.
Now, there
This
might be a man
backdrop
that
is
might be
great.
sighted, but it's definitely a female personality.
I feel great for calling you guys because I didn't know who to call. I was really scared. I had no idea what was going on, and it just feels like home again.
If you've experienced what you believe to be a ghost, or if you've had any type of paranormal encounter, our Sightings investigative team wants to know about it.
To report your sighting, call 1-900-740-SIGHT. Each call 75 cents a minute. Average call lasts 2 minutes, and you must be 18 years or older. On the next Sightings, many thought the English crop circles were a hoax, but
the YouTube equivalent would be like, do we have free will? Call 1-900. I see that one all the time on the panels.
Startling new evidence may prove there's more here than meets the eye.
This intelligence is almost certainly not human.
On the next.
I feel like I've heard, what's his name? What's his name now? The Powdered Dusty, Flow State. I think I've heard him argue free will like a million times on Sarah the Tomato.
Sightings.
Join us next time for new investigations into the unexplained. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
Tomorrow on a special homicide edition of Cops, follow an actual investigation.
How does that work if you use a Ouija board to contact OPC
The following
Don?
program.
I tend to agree, Armand, but if you just want to talk and like, you know, hash it out and exchange ideas or put on a show or whatever, I get it, but like I think there are people who take it like so seriously, like they really think they're changing minds, and I just don't think they are. I don't think people watch like YouTube debates, especially not in Boyd, for like real, you know what I mean?
Deals with controversial subjects.
Maybe I'm in the
theories
minority.
Expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available.
Well, I would never talk anybody out of their religion, but I do. But like, if people like, most people probably, hopefully wouldn't try to like force their religion on people or weaponize it to harm other people. But I do think when they do things like that, it should be the people sitting next to them in church who are like, hey, listen, jack off, you're making us all look bad. This isn't what God would want. This isn't whatever, you know what I mean? And like deal with it, but they never do.
Available information.
Because it's like more important to stay part of the herd than it is to, improve the herd.
Tonight on Sightings, many thought the mystery of the English crop circles was a hoax, but our ongoing investigation has uncovered startling evidence that may prove extraterrestrial contact.
This intelligence is almost certainly not human.
Then, what sinister spell has cursed the British royalty for 600 years? We uncover the royal curse tonight.
I mean, that's why Ben's entertaining to me, because it seems like he will argue any side on any issue. He'll argue it like passionately and like, try to make it entertaining.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. Since the early 1980s, over 2,000 crop circle formations have been discovered in 30 countries, and new ones are being reported every month. Theories about where they come from range from weather anomalies to extraterrestrials to crazed hedgehogs doing a mating dance. Well, obviously, some theories are more credible than others, but the fact remains that something is happening in fields around the world.
It's easy, Armand. When something is of value and of use and can be of a benefit, then it matters. And if it can't, then who cares? That's probably a pretty widely held take.
The world that no one can fully explain. The stories of unexplained designs appearing mostly in the farm fields of England hit an all-time high in 1990. News media from around the world were quick to hail these enigmatic circles and lines as the strangest scientific discovery of the 20th century. For a brief period, crop circles became the darling of popular culture.
I just watched Signs.
Then two hoaxers stepped forward to claim that they had created the crop circles. And just as quickly as the phenomenon began, the media dropped the crop circle story.
The hoax theory stuck, and soon the only people still interested were hardcore theorists and scientists.
Initially, these were...
I was listening to Jim Cornette. He was talking about the Tommy Rich fan club. I guess whoever ran it back in the day, like, slacked off and quit sending out the newsletters and stuff. Do you? Well, I'm sure there are people who probably do it, but that would be an interesting, I think, thing for like one of the bigger streamers like Grace or maybe even like Ruby and like VP level. They could do like an old school like fan club thing if you for like a certain tier of membership where you got like a little envelope with like, you know, related junk in it and like a photocopied a mimeograph newsletter.
Simple single circles, but in 1990 the patterns became much more complex, dramatically so, and blew right out of the water some of the early theories.
The early formations were the size of a domestic room. Now you have formation which are the
I like it in a debate where one person acts like they're surprised that the other person disagrees with them.
Enormous growth, both in complexity and in size and in numbers.
Yes, ATF Media,
Michael
yes.
Green is an archaeologist and architecture historian who is also one of the founding members of the Center for Crop Circle Studies.
We're not a religious cult. We're not a strange, wacky branch of the UFO movement. We are trying to use rational means to establish what's going on. And the first thing we learnt, and this year in particular, is that there are a few hoaxes.
I'm Dave Chorley, this is Doug Barr, and we are the two people
Hoaxers.
that have created the crop circles in 1978 through to today.
The most
There you
impressive
go.
thing to me, and the
Here's the original. Are these the original hoaxers?
reason why I actually stopped and listened to what they had to say, was not really what they told me, but what they did in the field. Because when they did the
Yes.
demonstration,
Well, they have those, right, in the, what do they call them? Like the loot crates? There's like a certain percentage of loot crates that have like, or maybe it's even just one per like month or whatever, but it has like some kind of like bonus item in it. We could just pretend like Hormaxer got the first bonus item.
out in Sussex at Chilgrove, the formation itself was quite messy, but it was amazing how quickly it happened. In 45 minutes, this huge formation was laid down, and that's even accounting for the fact that half the world's press were tramping around it as well with them, asking them for interviews at the same time.
But Doug and Dave had only done a few of the hundreds of circles that had been done, and from the evidence, their public demonstrations in broad daylight, they weren't very good at it. But no one really knew what hoaxers could do and what they couldn't do. And so I thought, well, here's an ideal opportunity for a scientific experiment, and the best way to do it is through a competition.
Biologist and author Rupert Sheldrake did organize a competition held earlier this year.
What?
The challenge was to see if anyone could create crop
at that little
circles that
guy.
could not be identified as hoaxes.
Is that true?
The
He
circles
was
were
an
made at
Air
night,
Force
and the
officer?
next day, the contest winners demonstrated their techniques.
What we found was that the standard of artificial circle...
If that's true, that he's an Air Force officer, this could all be propaganda. He could be just shelling out the shelling out for the Air Force, covering for him. Oh no, that wasn't aliens. That was these two elderly men with two plywood boards.
Making was much higher than most people had expected. These people could do very well. The standard was very high indeed, and the most surprising thing was that people could do all this in complete darkness with making very little noise.
An old crack pipe. The Jedi could probably do one too. They have a lot of really dedicated fans.
I flew the site the next day, and the aerial pictures that we took show some of the centers of these formations displaying exactly the characteristics that the genuine circles have displayed, and exactly the characteristics that many of the experts have said couldn't be done by people.
Beth Adone messaged me and said that she watched the stream about the clip we did of her shoveling the dirt. She said she watched it twice and that she thought that you guys were funny in the comments.
Things like making rings without having a hole in the...
And that her mom, she did not consider just dumping it out at any point. and that her mom sold all 3 of the barrels for $20.
Center where somebody stands. Things like
So there's your
producing a
closure on that
radial
story.
effect where the crop splays out from a central point. And the team that won and the team that came second and third produced really marvelous formations, which the judges were very impressed by.
Well, I saw a Mel
So what
Gibson
they show
film
is
where
that
they
many of
was
the
not a
features of
grift.
crop circles could be hoaxes, but they don't show that they are hoaxes. And I mean, the analogy that I find most helpful is the fact you can forge a $20 bill doesn't prove that all $20 bills are forgeries.
The first and primary feature, which is evident in the genuine phenomenon and not in the hoaxes, is the spiraling fingerprint.
Colin Andrews heads up the Circles Phenomenon Research Group in Brantford, Connecticut. He has co-authored 2 books on crop circles and is believed to have visited more actual crop circle sites than any other.
We're working out a name right now for her playlist.
The researcher.
This particular screen shows clearly the difference between the fingerprint, this is the print at the top here, of the genuine phenomenon, the real phenomenon, and all of those hoaxes which we're hearing so much about these days.
Andrews believes that the most important patterns to be studied are those where the flow of the crops changes direction within a single
Well, he didn't write the movie. That's why I would trust it. He just acted in it.
circle, a pattern no human has yet been able to duplicate in public.
I think the single most convincing argument for a real phenomenon and against the hoax are the effects that the phenomenon are having upon the plants themselves.
I don't know about
Dr.
this guy.
Levingood, a well-known physicist in the United States, has discovered changes in the structure of the plants themselves, in the cell structure of the plants, the molecular structure of the plants on a number of continents.
When a formation hits, it just knocks the heck out of the embryo. They don't grow. The seeds don't develop.
Oh, look
Dr.
at this guy, an
Levingood
Amish
has
scientist.
discovered that the cell structure of the crops
Whoa, look at that
within a
vest he's
formation
got on.
are distinctly different from undisturbed crops nearby, and that this new cell structure seriously alters the crop's growth.
Let me get this straight. A plant that is in a formation undergoes an internal change so that seeds taken from that plant grow a different kind of plant or an altered plant?
Altered in both the growth rate and the germination. In some cases, it increases quite significantly.
Some people maintain that hoaxsters created not only some, but all of these formations. You buy that?
Oh, God, no. No, this is utterly ridiculous.
What,
No.
what does this mean? What does that danger sign mean down there?
They had that kind of energy. They wouldn't be wasting it out in the field making impressions in a crop. It'd be a new kind of energy distribution, let's say, that I have never heard of.
Mathematician Gerald Hawkins is another scientist with an intriguing theory. Professor Hawkins made his mark in the 1950s when he came up with an explanation for Stonehenge, still accepted today.
Is he playing a harp?
Now, Hawkins has devised a mathematical formula relating the
kinda
crop
boy. I
circles
like
to the
that.
notes of a musical scale.
Help us understand that. You're not suggesting that because there's a relationship between the ratios of the crop circles and the ratios of musical tones that you can somehow play the crop circles.
I'm not saying that the crop circles are musical. I'm saying that they follow the same mathematical law as the major diatonic scale. No natural physical process that we know will generate the diatonic scale, which is, of course, the white notes on the piano. Therefore, the only theory that we can put forward is that it's done by human beings. It's all a hoax. But they're clever hoaxes, and if it's not a hoax, then we have a major scientific problem on our hands.
Professor Hawkins has studied the ratios
13
of the
of
sizes
20
of crop
crop circle
circles and found the same ratios between notes in the diatonic scale.
If the music doesn't seem listenable, then it seems to imply there's something beyond music being communicated here.
Yes, it could be a copyright insignia of the primary hoaxes or the crop circle makers.
Sorry.
And perhaps they may use this later for
Jeez, what a
further
nightmare.
information transmission. But I'm not going to predict what crop circle makers will do next.
Dr. Hawkins, you're implying that if even one of the crop circles is not the work of a hoaxer, that science will have to rethink everything?
Like, okay, Daninsky, imagine this, right? See this look right here? Imagine we hear Tim White, he just drones on, and the camera keeps zooming in on this guy's face like that. And then when we switch back to Tim White, he's playing a song about crop circles. And then this guy's like, they eventually show him smiling and nodding that he's been won over in the interview.
I'm afraid so. You only need one in this case, and you have a mystery.
I could believe that. A harp sounds kind of
stands
alien.
out clearly now is that we have the uncomfortable fact that this intelligence
Love this
is
guy from the
almost certainly
B-52s.
not human. And this is where people become extremely nervous. The media becomes very nervous. The press becomes extremely nervous. They don't like mysteries like this.
Close
One of the
Encounters
reasons
thing
that
was like,
some
dun, dun,
thinkers
dun, dun,
have
dun.
thought might be behind this is
there you go, Bob Brown.
position of the Earth in terms of the terrible damage that is being done by man. Could we be dealing with something which is trying to warn us?
Either it's very skillful hoaxers with a tremendous sense
Look at
of
the
humor,
size of this guy's suit
or
coat.
it's some non-human intelligence that's
Shoulders for
completely
years.
off the scale of anything that we've contemplated so far. But if they are communications of Gaia or nature or aliens or whatever, if they're communications of some kind from a non-human source, it's not quite clear what they're saying. Their main message so far seems to be, watch this space.
Now that's a
Are
good
we
one.
any closer today to unraveling the mystery of what or who created the crop circles? Joining me now is George Wingfield, Director of Field Research and founding member of the Center for Crop Circle Studies in London, England. George, welcome to Sightings.
Hello, Tim.
The crop circles have changed over the years. The
George
shapes have changed,
Wingfield.
the number have changed. Have you learned anything from those directions?
There's no doubt at all that these are of some sort of intelligent origin, and this appears to be non-human.
What do the circles seem to be leading toward?
I think they are leading
They're
us
for
towards an
navigation.
understanding of
Remember
some
that
other
from Signs?
level of intelligence which is not human.
Do you believe, George, that the crop circles are an ancient phenomenon, that they've always
Remember
been
that
there,
kid
they
hates
just
his
haven't been
dad, and
accounted
for some
for
reason
by,
he just loves
by
him at the
modern
end,
means?
even though he's still a
No, I don't
terrible
think
dad.
so. I don't think so at all. I think the crop circles started appearing in quite recent times, probably less than 30 years ago. There may have
Tim White should have made that guy, the harp guy, mad, and then the harp guy's like, well, now you've made this, now this is a dishonest interview, and then he gives him the Jeff Jarrett.
been a few before that, but very, very few.
For you, do the crop circles inspire hope or fear or merely curiosity?
Well, they certainly inspire hope. I believe whatever is causing the circles is something which is benign. I don't believe there's anything hostile or evil here, which is what some people would have you to believe.
George Wingfield, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
And we'll be back with more Sightings in just a moment.
Coming up next, what sinister spell has cursed
Ernie
the royal
Eldorado,
family for
ATF
600
Media
years?
will like to hear that.
You can't escape it.
We reveal
Uh-oh,
the
here we
secrets
go.
of the,
The
royal
royals.
curse next.
In the past 2 years, Britain's royal family has endured an unprecedented amount of scrutiny and negative press. And some people are not surprised because they believe the House of Windsor is suffering under an ancient curse. Are the Windsor curse and the current royal troubles just coincidence? Or can a curse really create scandal, hardship, and even death? A curse is one of the most ancient forms of ritual still surviving today. It can be an elaborate spell or hasty words. King Tut's tomb was believed to be cursed, and some of those who entered it did die under unusual circumstances.
Now, Savvy Guy says that sub-5 guys are cursed. Does that fall under this, or is that not? Does that have any kind of? Can we break that curse? Is that maybe you can break the curse with looks maxing?
The Hope Diamond, the largest in the world, is also thought to carry a curse. But can people
That's like
really
a
be
counter.
harmed
What do they
by
call
something
it?
that many believe is merely superstition?
Curse.
Curse is magic, black magic. That is a negative wish that can be made by word of mouth, by saying something that would harm somebody. Anybody can be victimized. Anybody is vulnerable.
Throughout this century, Britain's royal family has
He
been
did
the
used to
object
be
of scandal
religious,
and
too.
tragedy. From the
Savvy guy.
abdication of Edward VIII to the bloody terrorist attack that killed Prince Charles' favorite uncle. Recent revelations about Princess Diana's unhappy marriage and Fergie's impending divorce from Prince Andrew are just the latest misfortunes that some believe are caused by a little-known royal curse. If such a curse exists, could it explain why, for the first time, the role of the
Fergie
whole
was
British
wild back
monarchy
in the
is
day,
being
man.
questioned,
She was like
and
the
some are even
outlaw.
calling for its end? In 1986, speculation arose that the personal and public misfortunes of the House of Windsor were due to a centuries-old curse. It was believed to have first taken its toll on the Queen Mother's family in the early 19th century at their ancestral home in Scotland. Rumors about the curse surfaced after it was revealed that two nieces of the Queen Mother, thought to be dead, had actually...
Well, savvy guy's way, I guess, of trying to break the curse is to get the bag. If he gets the bag, then he can get the box. And he said not too long ago that he doesn't care if a woman loves him as a man or respects him as a man. He just want to put his face in between some buns.
been hidden away in a mental hospital for over 40 years. The nieces, Nerissa and Catherine Bowes-Lyon, are also
style.
first cousins to Queen Elizabeth, who is a direct descendant of the Bowes-Lyon family.
The fact is that the Queen has an enormous number of cousins, and if you
Hello, I'm
looked through
Hugo
the list of them all,
Vickers.
you would find all sorts of, you know, unfortunate characters. So too, there were two
Was that a
nieces
jab
of the
at
Queen
Grace
Mother
Thorpe, ATF
who,
Media, that incest crap?
It was understood and indeed published that they had died many years ago.
That wasn't a Craig
and
reference
what happened was
either.
they were born mentally deficient.
What actually happened in 1986 was that both these women were alive and well at this stage. It is not known whether or not the Queen Mother knew about their
His
existence.
name
It was a
was
scandal at the
Robert
time because it
Jobson.
left a tarnished image on the woman that was otherwise known as the nation's favourite granny.
The origin of the royal curse is believed to date back to the 17th century and Glamis Castle in
Which
northeastern
Kennedy did they
Scotland.
hide away? It was one of the
Glamis is
women,
the
right?
ancestral home of the
They
Bowes-Lyon
lobotomized her
family.
and then
Here in the
stuck her away.
1600s, the Lord of Glamis Castle made an error in judgment that many believe the current royal family is still paying for.
One of these stories is a result of the feud that existed between the Ogilvy and the Lindsay family.
Oh, boy.
And the story says that a
Something
group
for
of
the
Ogilvys
ladies.
were fleeing from the Lindsays and came to
Was it Rose?
Glamis and asked for shelter. And the story says that what he did was to give them shelter in a small room in the thickness of the wall, but then he closed them in, and eventually that room was walled up. And of course, they died a terrible death.
The Ogilvys were entombed in Glamis
Craig is
Castle
the
for
real
over 100
Goldfinger.
years. When their chamber was finally
Robert
opened in the
Bob
1700s, a
Jobson.
grisly discovery was made.
It's like an Arrested Development joke, isn't it?
Before they died.
Oh, that's
that
Bob
they even got
Law.
to the stage of eating their own limbs. At least one of the skeletons had his teeth around his forearm.
Some believe that when the wall came down, a curse was let loose upon the residents of the castle, a curse conjured up by the murdered members of the Ogilvy clan. The first manifestation of the curse is thought to have occurred in 1821, with the birth of the then Earl's firstborn son, Thomas Bowes-Lyon, the great-great-great-uncle of Queen Elizabeth.
He was a, if you like, a hybrid between Quasimodo and Phantom of the Opera. His entire body was covered with hair, almost like an ape. He had...
Okay, so he's a crossover of Phantom of the Opera and Quasimodo? Okay.
No arm, well, very small arms and very small legs. And when his father, the 11th Earl, saw
Is this real?
his son and heir, he was so horrified that he banished him from his sight.
And the story even goes that he lived to be 100 years old, which would mean that he was still alive in 1921.
There is a sort of infamous story about the Glamis monster.
This is a wild-ass
But frankly,
story.
I don't know anything about it. I mean, as far as we are concerned here at Glamis, it simply never happened.
The curse of Glamis Castle has never been openly discussed by the royal family. Any discussion about the curse is vigorously denied by anyone employed by the family.
Man, Fergie.
Family take very strong exceptions to that particular story. And again, as far as they're concerned, it's a load of rubbish.
It is interesting that it's the way to get a very, very frosty royal look, is if you mention this monster and any story about it in the presence of the Queen Mother or any of her immediate family.
So is that
I've
true?
never
Is that a
actually
true
commented
story or
on
no?
the story on the record? But when the Queen Mother's biographer, James Wentworth Day, went to interview Countess Granville, the Queen Mother's sister, in 1967, shortly before her death, she simply turned around and said that she was never allowed to discuss
100 years?
this, and her father and grandfather had point-blank.
Is this a trustworthy newspaper?
If a society strongly
A
believing
massive body.
that
It was said he
curse
was
can affect
egg-shaped.
you, then it must, by its very nature, affect.
Look at that computer behind her.
You can't escape it. You give in.
Will the
man,
curse
I'm
ever
old.
end for the royal family? Or are they destined to eternal tragedy because of the murderous act of one of the
Yeah,
Queen
Fergie
Mother's
was pretty hot.
misguided
I think
ancestors?
so too. Underrated. At
Some
the time, she was
historians suggest
considered
yet
like
another possible
not
reason for
attractive
the royal
by a lot of
curse.
people, like too ugly to be a
Glamis
royal.
Castle in 1537, Lady Glamis, the beautiful widow
Lady
of the sixth
Glom.
Earl, was accused of being a witch. She was burned alive, and ever
Oh,
since
wow.
her death, strange supernatural phenomena
was
have
burned
plagued
alive.
the castle.
Coming up next, does the cousin of the Loch Ness Monster lurk in the depths of Lake Champlain?
Swings his entire body around and lifts his neck and head out of the water entirely.
Finally, on
On a
some real
recent
news.
special edition of Sightings, we reported on Operation Deep Scan, the latest scientific search for proof of the existence of the Loch Ness Monster.
Operation
Now, an
Deep
update on the findings
Scan.
of Operation Deep Scan and information about a lake monster sighted right here in the United States. Operation Deep Scan, the most comprehensive and sophisticated search of Loch Ness to date, did come up with an important new sighting. Using sonar, an unexplained creature of large
Locked in an
proportions
RV.
was tracked through the murky lake for more than 2 miles. Sightings of a similar nature have also occurred in Lake Champlain, along the New York-Vermont border.
Ooh,
Recently,
Vermont.
increased attention has been
Another
focused on the
New
lake
England
after
treasure.
3 separate eyewitnesses captured video of what they believe is Champ, the Loch Ness Monster's
Oh,
American
Champ. I
cousin.
remember
It
Champ.
was a huge black mat. It was just monster. It was scary. It was that big.
Up came the neck
Champ
and the
is in
head,
the
literally
Time
like
Life
my hand is doing.
Mysteries of the
turned
Unknown
and
book.
it looked at me, and it turned and it went right back down into the water.
He swings his neck around and lifts his
Dennis
tail up,
Hall.
swings his entire body around and lifts his neck and head out of the water entirely. Does a loop and, a whole big arch like this in the water and dives back in.
A sightings
Once you get a vest
investigative
that
team is
fits you,
currently monitoring
jackass.
Lake
That's what
Champlain.
I said if I
We'll
was
bring you a
interviewing.
full updated report of our findings in the coming weeks. Input from viewers is an important part of our sightings investigations. If you videotape or photograph what you believe to be paranormal activity, our sightings investigative team wants to know about it.
To report your
Oh,
sightings,
boy,
call the
yeah.
Sightings hotline at 1-900-740-SITE.
We're here to listen.
That's 1-900-740-SITE. Each call
Royal
75 cents a
curse.
minute.
That was
Average
an
call lasts 2
interesting,
minutes, and you must be 18
unexpected
years or older.
topic.
Again,
I
the Sightings
appreciate that.
hotline is 1-900-740-7483. On the next Sightings, from the newly accessible Russian Republic, startling eyewitness evidence of bizarre extraterrestrial contact. And then, a special update on the Iceman. What
Did you guys hear that? We're getting some extraterrestrial content. Yeah, remember Champ? I remember when I was a kid even reading like the little like cryptozoology books, because crypto to me, I always think of cryptozoology, but Champ was like one of the was like always talked about.
ancient secrets has
One
he
of the
revealed
favorites.
on the next Sightings?
Join us next time for new investigations into the unexplained. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
The world's top wrestlers battle for championship gold on Saturday night's main event right after.
Oh, did you hear that promo for Saturday night's main event?
The following program deals with controversial subjects.
Okay, this is a Russian UFO. Ooh, listen to this. Oh my God, guys, you're gonna shit when you hear this. Okay, Russian UFO, the ghost of Whitechapel. That's big, right? But listen to this. An update on the Iceman. Holy shit.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretations. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings from the Russian Republic, our team of
Is it
investigators
confirmed
captures
that Ben
startling
is,
videotape
on
images
hand
and
and
returns
back in
with
the
eyewitness evidence of bizarre extraterrestrial contact. Then, is the ghost of Whitechapel a murder victim of London's infamous Jack the Ripper? And can science reanimate the Iceman by cloning? The special update next.
Oh, different Iceman. I thought they meant what was it? The something Iceman? Minnesota Iceman. With his unremarkable for his height, dick size.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. The defeat of communism in the former Soviet Union has had wide-ranging consequences. For our Sightings investigative team, it has meant unprecedented access to secret documents and exclusive interviews about one of the most controversial UFO sightings in history. In the first of a series of reports from inside Russia, our search for the truth about a mysterious place known as the M Triangle. The Republic of Russia is the heart of the new Commonwealth of Independent States that was once the Soviet Union. On a daily basis, new information is released to the people of this country about the previous government's clandestine activities. One of the most unlikely activities was a well-organized government effort to research UFO phenomena. And today, that activity is spoken about openly at the Russian Space Center, especially by those who have been close to the Russian space program, like former Colonel Marina Popovich.
We are presently standing at the Cosmonaut Training Center of Russia. It is where all the cosmonauts are still trained, even today. Some of the training includes the proper protocol in cosmonauts dealing with UFOs. As a colonel, I used to be a terrible skeptic, but when I see the government programs dealing with UFOs, I can't ignore this evidence.
No. Different Iceman, unfortunately.
I've seen photos pilots have taken of saucers attacking planes. We're also now aware of recurring landing sites. I have absolutely no doubt that UFOs exist.
Yeah, if you I think you can comment a link, can't you, on the video? That way I'll know the link is like associated to this, and my high brain will remember.
It is impossible that in a universe this large, that's expanding so quickly, with new stars and planets being formed, that we are a unique planet that sustains life.
A team of Sightings researchers set out to uncover new information about the Soviet government's UFO research efforts. Information that had been long suppressed was coming to light. Even as our investigation began, a guard involved in a routine examination of our credentials was eager to tell us about his own UFO experiences.
1.5 years ago, I was standing guard here at Lenin's tomb in Red Square when I got a message over the radio. There was a UFO flying over Spassky Tower. Come quickly. When I arrived, I looked, but it had gone away. But there was definitely an object hovering above the tower for several minutes, one militiaman said. In the old days, we would be frightened to talk of such things. But today, there is an openness. In fact, there is even a TV show on now about such things.
Once a week, Russians tune their televisions to UFO, Unannounced Visit, one of the most popular programs in the country. It deals with UFO mysteries, and its host is Alexander Miachekov, a respected journalist and ufologist. It was from Alexander that we received our first information about the one UFO story that has captured the imagination of all Russia for the past 3 years.
We have a very interesting and mysterious area around the city of Perm. The incidents that happened in that area are hard to believe, so unbelievable that it is hard to compare that area to any other area of anomaly. That area is called M Triangle. The journalist Pavel Muhartov has been there, and I'll tell you, he had unbelievable experiences there and developed new, almost superhuman abilities after visiting the triangle. It's absolutely fantastic.
Did you ever, I mean, it's kind of a weird topic, but it's they made a documentary about trying to syndicate Everybody Loves Raymond into Russia. And I thought that was kind of like, it was an interesting look at how they handle like the localized remakes of popular foreign shows in different countries, but it like focused specifically on developing like the Russian version. I think it was the Russian version.
We visited with Pavel Muhartov, the journalist who first broke this story of the M Triangle. He's a man with no formal scientific training, but he believes he encountered mysterious forces in the M Triangle zone that gave him new abilities and knowledge. the knowledge that would eventually lead him to the Russian space program.
I grew up a slight man. My health was never good. I was even kicked out of the Russian military because I was too frail.
This one here is proof that he was discharged from the army for health reasons.
After I was discharged from the military, I worked for a newspaper as a reporter. I started reading letters about the M Triangle zone.
He found documents in the archives that one of the KGB agents started to write reports to his superiors that strange phenomena started to appear.
There were many UFO sightings.
So the name of the movie is Exporting Raymond. You can watch it for free on Plex. I think is the only, or no, I'm sorry, Pluto, not Plex. Pluto is the only place that has it for free right now. But yeah, Exporting Raymond is kind of interesting.
Sudden insanity and dangerous levels of radiation.
Everyone accuses.
My editor sent me there to cover the story. Wild feelings came over me. Strange photos
Ben
were
is
taken,
pro-Russian.
and many in the group fell ill.
These are the photos taken at night. That's what they saw during the night, flying and hovering above them.
For me, the M Triangle story is good. I developed great knowledge about aerospace and about physics, and my health improved. I quit the newspaper and was immediately accepted into the Soviet space program. The M Triangle changed my life. I am no longer slight. Now, I am a cosmonaut.
The M Triangle is an area considered to be a hotbed of UFO activity. It is located in a remote area 600 miles east of Moscow in the Ural Mountains. Eyewitnesses have reported strange craft, mysterious light phenomena, and encounters of the third kind with translucent beings. There are even journals and books devoted to the ongoing sightings in the M Triangle.
When Muhartov first wrote about it, I was skeptical. It was too obvious that everyone who lived in the area saw all this extraterrestrial activity. Many suggest that the area is high in mercury deposits, and this is causing hallucinations. But could it be, to the extent that people are seeing signs and letters in the sky? There must be something there.
Before our own sightings investigation at the M Triangle, we stopped at the Commonwealth Ufological Center, a government agency.
Oh, Ananjay. Did it have anything to do with, was he going to move to one of those like towns they built for Americans over there? You know what I mean? It was like kind of like I think people were expecting like a 1950s throwback town. I remember there was one group of people or one couple or one family that went over there and bought property or whatever and then ran into like a lot of problems, but I don't know too much about the towns they built.
On the outskirts of Moscow dedicated to UFO research.
Each day we process 15 to 20 UFO reports at our offices, including those from the M Triangle. We know of the dangers of this zone and that science has not been able to establish the truth about UFOs in the zone. But that doesn't rule out the health hazards. My advice to you is to get in and get out of that dangerous zone. It's just not safe.
Working in Russia was made more difficult by the lack of provisions we found available. This is a typical grocery store in Russia during business hours, a grim reminder of the upheaval still going on in the new republics. There may be a free market now, but red cabbage is still too expensive for most shoppers. The harsh conditions bear silent witness to the character of the Russian people who endure this hardship on a daily basis. After a 2.5-hour jet flight into the Ural Mountains, the research team flew an additional 90 minutes by helicopter. We agreed to comply with the government's request that we remain in the M Triangle for 24 hours only. The government warned us of dangers there. People who had reportedly gone mad, lost their eyesight, or disappeared completely. We first landed in a small village just outside the M Triangle to see if we could find eyewitnesses to the bizarre phenomena in the region. What we found was a village out of the 1890s with people who told stories right out of Star Wars.
I was walking my grandmother home when we both saw a red flash coming from that zone. Lots of my friends have seen that too.
Man, wouldn't you love to have an adventure
things that fly in the sky here are common. I don't even listen anymore to such old news.
I've seen these saucers numerous times. To say that they are nonsense is nonsense. We know what we see.
We found no one who had been adversely affected by the reported paranormal activity. We then proceeded on the final leg of our journey into the M Triangle, accompanied by Emil Bakurin, ufologist and author of the Russian bestseller, UFOs, Explanation of the Unexplained.
I've written a book about the zone
imagine
because
hanging out with this guy.
there have been
The
so
Russian
many
Ernest
strange
Borgnine.
experiences here by believers and skeptics alike. Near our tent, one group saw translucent fireballs that chased them into the woods and burned them seriously. Only 17 meters from here, a glowing object stunned a research group. One of the men later committed suicide.
Yeah, Russia was very different for a short period of time.
We
than it
often
is
see
now.
groups of UFOs fly past this field.
They really embrace
Sometimes they
Kentucky Fried
disappear,
Chicken there for a
sometimes
while.
they land and leave radiation.
The UFOs sighted here have yet to be fully explained. The strange light phenomena, however, are thought to be the result of geomagnetic anomalies evident in the area, known to scientists as lightning balls.
We've used...
Plus, if you can keep people talking about lights in the sky, then they won't pay attention to the empty grocery store shelves and stuff like that. So let everybody be an official ufologist as long as they don't complain.
Very sensitive equipment that measures and reacts to electricity in a battery from as far as 100 meters. But the same piece
No
of
one's
measuring
investigating the
equipment
grocery
wouldn't
store.
react to those energetic balls that we've observed. Therefore, we conclude that the energy is not of an electromagnetic nature.
The light phenomena are best seen at night. Our investigative team brought special night vision cameras, and after several hours, they photographed what can only be described as startling.
Here we go.
George, did we see a satellite? What do you think that was?
No, a satellite came up and just like this.
Oh,
What was
look at
it?
this footage. Oh my god.
It can't do the
IRL from
trajectories
Russia.
like this in the
90s
sky, like
Russia,
this,
IRL.
like this.
The strange streak of light never reappeared. A frame-by-frame analysis
What a
offers
great
more
piece of
detail,
footage.
but gives little insight into its origin. It may have been a shooting star or a satellite. However, there is little debate among the Russian UFO community that something beyond rational explanation is occurring in this remote
It's
region.
unanimous amongst
And there
a
is no
group
better
of people
proof
who
than
believe
Pavel
in
Mahartov,
UFOs that
the
this
man
is
who
UFO
claims he
related.
gained secret knowledge that transformed him from journalist to cosmonaut number 152 after visiting the M Triangle.
Boy.
Most of the people we talked with in Russia believe UFOs are operating in the M Triangle.
That's where Vitaly
However,
came
off
from,
the record,
the M
a few
Triangle.
scientists offered another possibility. They claim that the Soviet government has been secretly testing a new breed of weapons called psychotronic weapons that immobilize an enemy by creating realistic mass hallucinations. They suggest that eyewitnesses in the M Triangle may have actually seen something that wasn't really there, because they were unwitting participants in a top-secret military experiment.
Coming up, our ghost investigators uncover an apparition haunting Whitechapel, London.
It was just something I couldn't explain, but it was frightening.
Was she a victim of Jack the Ripper?
The 10 Bells is a pub
Yeah,
in
there you go,
Whitechapel at the
Daninsky.
East End of London. Haunting phenomena have been reported there for the past 100 years.
And if you don't like it,
During our own
you get
investigation at the 10 Bells, we uncovered evidence that the paranormal activity there may very well be related to a notorious murderer who has never been found.
Oh,
The
shit.
10 Bells has been a favorite meeting place in London's Whitechapel district
Man, what a
since
cool name, the
1754.
10 Bells.
And for the past 100 years, it has also been a favorite haunt
Imagine telling somebody you're going to meet them down at the 10 Bells. That sounds so cool.
for ghostly apparitions, spotted by owners and customers alike.
It was just something I couldn't explain, but it was frightening.
Oh, look at this guy.
Haunting is a form of
All-star
communication.
lineup
We first
here.
brought our investigation into the pub's dank cellar, where many people have experienced haunting phenomena and apparitions. Sightings asked renowned psychic investigator Marion Dampier-Jeans to record
I feel
her
like there's been a
impressions at the
couple
10
times
Bells.
they've
It's quite,
talked
if
about
you like, a
they
bit of a
feel like they
tragic sort of
had the
place,
answer
but
for Jack
spirits
the
are
Ripper.
definitely in here.
This is the door that we can hear banging during the
Oh,
night.
DNA evidence?
And
That
you
one I
kind of
didn't
get
know
a
about.
funny kind of feeling of presence.
And I know
yeah, but
that
I'm
spirit
in
has showed
America,
himself
so it
to
sounds cool to
landlords
me.
who's
The
been
10
here.
Bells.
On a number of occasions, we heard footsteps.
I would like to tell someone in a conversation that I gave someone the 10 Bells. I don't know what that means, though, but it sounds cool.
We come upstairs
I
here
really
and we
gave her
find
the
nothing.
10 Bells.
And I just feel totally, completely distant. The whole atmosphere here is very different. It's very disturbing, if you like.
About 5
If
months
you
ago,
like.
I was
What if
here
I don't
managing
like?
the bar. After about 8 or 9 days here, I went down to the cellar. When I got down to the bottom of the stairs, I went over to the right. Very briefly, I got a glimpse of a woman in sort of old-style clothes.
I think she comes to what is known as the old grounds, where she might have been, where she might have existed.
It gave me just as much a fright, you know, really frightened, I've got to be honest.
I would say she's from about 1856, 18-something, 60, whatever. It's around that era I'm in.
She's been spotted downstairs on numerous occasions by previous managers.
I still feel that there was a murder committed, but again, you know, I'm not quite sure who did the murder or why the murder was taking shape or place.
This place used to be frequently used by the ladies of the night, going back to Jack the Ripper's time.
Young lady, 5'2" tall. She said lives.
It's been proved that Elizabeth Stride did drink here.
Marion had provided an important clue to the identity of at least one apparition. The name Liz. And indeed, Elizabeth Stride, a prostitute, was a frequent customer here in the late 1800s. On September the 30th, 1888, Stride, known as Long Liz, was the third victim of Jack the Ripper.
What a nickname.
Could it be her restless spirit that haunts the 10 Bells today? Our psychic investigator believes so, but we also called in scientific investigator Tony Cornell for his opinion.
I mean, people in poltergeist cases and hauntings, they see things and hear things. Now, that's okay for them. It's real to them. But for us, for it to be real to us, we want it on film.
We set out to try to film the haunting phenomena, but our camera operator was stymied.
As we came into this little room we are in now, the recording fault in the viewfinder was going berserk, is the best way to describe it. And so we've now come in here again to play it back, and we just started up, and yes, it's still showing strangely in the viewfinder.
Psychic investigator Nella Jones.
Imagine you're just trying to buy some box, and then like all that time later, you're marked as one of the most notorious serial killers ever.
Has worked with Scotland Yard on a number of cases.
There are no godly
We
women.
asked her to walk through Whitechapel to see if she felt a psychic connection between the hauntings and Jack the Ripper. We also brought in Don Rumbelow, Ripper historian and the owner of one of the alleged murder weapons.
I'm pleased to have possession of it, but I don't know about
Don
proud.
Rumbelow. Wow,
I mean,
what
it's
a
such
name.
a macabre weapon.
This is definitely the place. I would stake my reputation on that.
Oh,
It has a thumb grip on the blade
story.
for cutting upwards. This is how you can tell that it's different from other
Getting
knives
stoned
of the
watching
period.
Cool Houses, California
Well,
Gold.
if
I'll check it
Nella
out.
felt something here, there's a very good reason for it, because this is where the body of the first of Jack the Ripper's victims was found on the night of the 31st of August, 1888.
Claiming no knowledge of where the murders had occurred, Nella led us to this site, but would not work with Rumbelow's knife.
Take it back, please. I don't want to know.
Oh, can't do that.
I don't want to know about that. If they could feel what I feel when I touch that, they wouldn't even want to look at it.
Documents, letters of the time, contemporary memoirs. This is evidence. Using, with due respect to Nella, using a psychic is not proof.
What's new in this case is really what's old.
It was author and historian Paul Begg who was finally able to shed some new light on this dark subject.
30th of September 1888 was the night of the double event when Jack the Ripper killed 2 women within an hour. The first of those murders took place along this street.
In fact, a street not far from the 10 Bells pub.
It's an interesting case because it's the one instance where we probably have a witness to Jack the Ripper in action. A man named Israel Schwartz was walking down the road. In front of him was another man, and ahead of both of them, standing in the entrance to a yard, was a woman. And as the second man approached, he attacked and assaulted the woman and threw her to the ground. Israel Schwartz probably saw Jack the Ripper committing his crime, murdering Elizabeth Stride, who was found dead in the alleyway about 15 minutes later.
Because there was a witness, the murder of Elizabeth Stride was key to Scotland Yard's investigation.
The most important piece of information that's come to light in the last couple of years is what we call the Swanson marginalia. And these notes were written by a man called Swanson who had overall responsibility.
Yeah, that is weird. I wonder, like, do you know anything about, like, the circumstances around it? Like, maybe the team who actually did the work, they put it that way, and then, like, citizen sleuths did the rest. I don't know.
responsibility.
But yeah, it should just be like, wow, we found out like the name of, you know, we've got this bit of DNA evidence. We don't know what it means yet.
The investigation of the crimes. And in those penciled notes, he names Jack the Ripper. He says that the Ripper was a man called Kosminski. If the police at the time were right, and if we've understood the information that we've got correctly, Aaron Kosminski was Jack the Ripper.
So maybe that's why it was such a big deal, right? Because it wasn't just like, oh, we found a random person's stuff. It was like they found someone who was already a heavy suspect. That's pretty interesting. That was a good bit of lore from you there, Robot Glock. That was clutch.
Ripper.
You have truly enhanced this episode of Sightings.
Our ghost investigation at the 10 Bells, near the site of Elizabeth Stride's murder, poses intriguing new questions about the identity of Jack the Ripper. Foremost, is the ghost of Long Liz trying to communicate some important clues? Is she trying to add her voice to those who believe Eric Kosminski is the bloody murderer known as Jack the Ripper? And if police believed Kosminski was the Ripper, why wasn't he arrested? Now, because Aaron Kosminski had never been tried, had never been convicted, they were not able to release that information to the public.
Well, but if it's real DNA evidence,
this has always remained a mystery.
Real, that is pretty. I'm not saying it's definitive.
While Eric Kosminski is considered a prime suspect, Scotland Yard still holds files on 2 additional men they believe could be the real Jack the Ripper. But will we ever know for sure? Some psychics answer yes, and suggest we listen more carefully to the ghostly presence in London's East End.
Coming up, can science bring the Iceman back to life through cloning?
The idea of cloning human beings is an interesting one.
A special update next.
Oh, yeah.
The discovery in 1991.
How crazy it would be if you just cloned like 100,000 of them at one time and just set them loose in like New York City or like Dallas or some like big city.
A remarkably preserved human, thought to be more than 5,000 years old, has captured the attention of scientists around the world. Dubbed the Iceman, archaeologists are studying his...
Well, I didn't know that there was going to be Ripper content, but I think your lore tidbits helped add some context for us uneducated in the ways of the Ripper.
His remains. Anthropologists are learning more about his behavior, and genetic engineers want the Iceman for experiments in cloning. He is considered by many to be the most important archaeological discovery of all time.
We pulled him out with a hammer.
A unique window to what we were like 1,000 years before the pyramids were built. He's called the Iceman, a miraculously preserved human specimen who froze to death over 5,000 years ago and literally remained on ice until his discovery last year in the Italian Alps. Unlike mummies and other bodies found after burial, the Iceman was flash frozen as he lived, resulting in a kind of ancient snapshot of the late Stone Age.
He doesn't look quite so dead. He's still got the flesh on him. This pores.
What does that mean? Does that mean there was some kind of like traumatic weather event that flash froze him, or was it just that the water was that cold when he fell into it? You know what I mean?
The skin are there, the fingernails are there, even his eyes are there. He happened to freeze with his eyelid open, and you can see this cloudy eyeball kind of glistening.
Oh my God, I can't see
inside
that.
his head.
Actually seeing this frozen man from the distant past has inspired many to consider what science could do to bring him back to life through cloning techniques, which have proven successful in frogs.
Frogs were cloned, and they were all identical extuplets of the original frog that was cloned, but that frog was a tadpole, and when you try to clone the adult stage of that same frog, nobody could do it. Something happens to the cells, to the DNA, that makes them unclonable.
The idea of cloning human beings is an interesting one, but it's a largely theoretical concept at this juncture.
But theoretical concepts,
like a
science
real
fiction to
Encino
some,
Man.
often become science fact. So what could we expect if cloning experiments with the Iceman are successful?
This is so valuable. Let's move his leg with a fucking hammer.
The ovum from a woman, implant that in her uterus, and it would grow up, and it would be essentially the identical twin of the Iceman.
Imagine your wife comes home and says she wants to be a surrogate for the Iceman.
Unfortunately, he would not know a thing about life in the late Neolithic
Cloning the Iceman's body may become
Oh,
a future
yeah,
reality.
probably.
But cloning his mind and the memories it contains is likely to remain the ultimate scientific puzzle. Input from viewers is an important part of our sightings
You
investigations.
think it was like meteor
If
related?
you videotaped or photographed what you believe to be paranormal activity, our sightings investigative team wants to know about it.
To report your sightings, call 1-900-740-SIGHT. Each call 75 cents a minute. Average call lasts 2 minutes, and you must be 18 years or older. Again, the Sightings hotline is 1-900-740-7483. Next, Sightings. The hunt for ghosts leads us to Alcatraz, where our paranormal investigator uncovers haunting evidence.
Alcatraz back in the news, and now we're gonna get a 90s take on it.
At least 100 ghosts here.
Plus mass UFO sightings in Mexico on the next Sightings.
Didn't we see that guy?
Join
in an
us next
earlier
time
episode?
for new investigations into the unexplained. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
Sunday at 7, 6 Central, supermodel Cindy Crawford hosts an hour of death-defying action and spectacular stuff.
I can't wait for this. Alcatraz.
Controversial subjects. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings, a psychic shocks police with visions that lead them to the body of a slain child.
After 5 minutes with her, she had 100% of my
Oh, I think we missed an episode. We may not get the Alcatraz one.
attention.
Now, can she find the murderer? Then, startling videotape evidence may prove a monster lurks in Lake Champlain.
We took the camcorder out, and then Champ, or several Champs, were back again.
Bullfrogs were Is this right? It's gotta be right. I'm just watching the playlist in
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White.
Yeah.
Many psychic detectives claim a high success rate in solving crimes.
No, it says that this is the next episode, but I figured they would say something about Alcatraz in the beginning.
There are now a number of cases where police can actually admit
I'm
that
very
they've been
upset.
helped by a psychic. One such case occurred in 1979.
Lalo
when psychic
was a
detective
bullfrog.
Kathleen Ray helped police find the body of a little girl who'd been murdered. The Sightings has asked Kathleen Ray to return to the scene of the crime to see if she can now identify the murderer.
Looks like a Reflections music video.
Fresno, in the heart of California's fertile Central Valley. It's a place where you can still find tranquil family farms, but it's also a place where tragedy has struck. On February 3rd, 1979, 8-year-old Victoria de Santiago, her sister Eva, and their dog all vanished. What really happened that day is still just speculation. The girls were last seen together at a neighborhood store.
The counterman said that he remembers the girls coming in and he told them to go out because they couldn't bring the dog in.
They may have been abducted outside.
What we figured is that
Day 8
perhaps
without
whoever
Ben.
this individual was there in the parking lot.
Perhaps a stranger grabbed the girl's dog
we have
and used
proof of
him
life?
to lure Victoria and Eva into his car. One day later, 3-year-old Eva was found. Victoria and her dog were still missing.
She was a very beautiful little girl. She was always very protective of her sister. She said that her sister told the man to let her go and that she would stay and just to let her, not to hurt her sister, and to let her go. And I just always remember that. And so from that, I know that she was just a very good person.
The police exhausted all leads.
Yeah, I think
Days, then
Tim
weeks
White's
passed
always
with
the
no new
host.
clues. No witnesses came forward.
And in my sleep, I was dreaming about what can I do? What other avenues?
It's weird that that Lalo is so focused on like how he looks when he's on camera, but pays absolutely no mind to like how he like behaves on like how he looks, how his behavior makes him look.
Can I go? And it came
As
to
long
me
as his, like,
in the dream.
hair
I
is,
mean, I sat right up.
Perfect.
And her name was Kathleen Ray.
Kathleen Ray is a psychic detective. She uses the powers of her mind to help law enforcement solve crimes. She claims she can see missing children, bodies, criminals, and for the past 20 years, she's been remarkably accurate. Kathleen Ray has gained a reputation for accuracy.
Everything that I've seen of the two of them, I would say it's probably, you know, if the way that War Chief has shown his martial arts skills and based on how he touts them, he would probably go in overconfident, which would give Lalo an advantage. And Lalo was a little bit more sadistic, but also Lalo might take the intentional loss to get the sympathy from Grace. That's a long play, but Lalo is kind of a long-term strategy kind of guy, I think.
Accuracy, even among skeptics.
Intuition is something that everybody has. And the intuitive sense is a sense of feeling. But these feelings are something I've educated, like you've educated your other senses, to where I can use them more fully.
Well, that's true if he doesn't mind. I mean, if
Despite
he's okay
skepticism
with that,
from the police, the De Santiago family asked that Kathleen help find Victoria.
When there's only a light shining out of total darkness, you're going to walk towards that light. Whether it's the wrong way, the right way, it doesn't matter. It's a direction.
I was told that a psychic was being brought in, and I was going to fly to San Jose to meet this psychic. And I thought, I'm going to fly up there, and I'm going to meet this lady wearing gypsy clothes. She's going to take me into this house. We're going to burn some incense. We're going to rattle some bones.
Lalo won't
She's going to
fight.
throw some dust around in the air and tell me something that's totally irrelevant to the case.
I am not doing what you see in these great, what I call horror movies. I don't suddenly grab my head and fall down and say, oh, they hit me in the head, or oh, this poor person's been stabbed. I don't do that. I'm more like an objective bystander.
The psychic part of this was just way off. It didn't make sense to me. How somebody 180 miles from here is going to tell me how to find a body in my town.
It's really taking feelings up and bringing a whole picture and holding that picture long enough. Just like going to a movie or turning the TV on and seeing a picture in front of your face.
I didn't believe it. But after 5 minutes with her, she told me
Yeah,
enough
the
stuff
kick,
that
the
she
martial
had 100%
arts
of my
demos did
attention.
not
I
go
was
well
believing
for
in
him.
her.
It was the beginning of an unlikely partnership.
Also,
the
like
sergeant, the psychic, and the family.
That could cut both
All
ways
I could think of
as far as
asking
being
her was,
in a fight.
You know, did she have to go through a lot of pain?
There you go.
Victoria at this point was still barely alive, just barely.
The family hoped.
Yeah, Lalo could take a tip from Memphis Wrestling and load up some quarters in a sock.
That they weren't too late, that Victoria was still alive and Kathleen could lead them to her.
She told me the road she was on.
You were
was
going to
not a
type Vicki
well-traveled
Lawrence.
road.
I saw this plowed field.
Not
I
a
knew
lot
the
of
field had
options
just been
there.
plowed.
Oh,
She's
but hey,
laying parallel to the.
This is kind of a deep cut, but any of you guys remember Fanny Flagg? I bet South to West might. Speaking of like kind of hot redheads.
The road. I feel she's laying parallel to the road with her face towards the road.
I'll see the bushes, the trees.
After the whole Fergie.
Poultry farm.
Kay said that when I found the body, there would be chickens. She's like, get chickens around the body. Chickens, chickens, chickens.
There has to be a farmer whose name starts with an S. There has to be a street that starts with an L. There has to be a windmill.
After my interview with Kay, as I was walking out the door, and I'll never forget this, she stopped me. She grabbed my arm, and she said, Tim, find the dog, and you'll find Victoria.
Back in Fresno, pursuing conventional leads, Sergeant McFadden's partner, Detective Popejoy, found the dog.
Detective Popejoy was at...
I know she did other stuff too, but I mostly remember Fanny Flagg from Match Game. She would give really spicy answers to everything. She was like a real like you know, wholesomely scandalous type woman.
The house where the dog was found. He verified it was the dog. So I asked Detective Popejoy, I said, well, are there chickens out there?
So I asked the farmer there, I said, is there a poultry ranch here?
I think Grace's excitement level would depend a lot on how, if it was translating into more views or or, you know, memberships, subs, gifted subs.
He said, yes, just south of here, about a quarter of a mile, there's a abandoned poultry ranch.
Detective Popejoy, he got the call on the dog, and he came out here and talked to the farmer that found the dog, and he found it down here a little ways and brought it back to this house. And when I was talking to him on the phone, he said there was no wind.
That's when Ben's going to reveal himself. They're going to have War Chief and Lalo coming together, And like just as they find, we're gonna like each one is gonna be on their streams, getting closer and closer to each other. And right when they get within distance, Ben's gonna reveal himself and step in between them and say he can't let, you know, his daughter ruin 2 more lives.
It was a situation that I'll never forget as long as I live, was him on the phone to me, and we are talking about this windmill, and I'm telling him there's no windmill here, and the landowner standing behind me said, oh yeah, you just walk by one, it's in the front yard.
As I'm telling him things that should be there, and he's confirming these back to me that Kay said would be there, I'm getting higher and higher. I'm like, wow, we are... This gal does know what she's talking about.
No glasses.
We immediately called for officers to respond, and it was from him telling me what she saw 145 miles away.
The police dispatched a search team that had been briefed on Kathleen's psychic visions. The L, they were on Leonard Street. The S, it was on the mailbox, the first letter of the farmer's last name. And by the side of the road, they found Victoria. Her naked body was in an irrigation ditch under the largest tree in the area, all as Kathleen had described. Victoria had been sexually assaulted, then left to die.
Well, they should arrest this woman.
Like an animal. And she was still alive, in
if
a coma.
She knows all the details of
right
the crime.
In a little trench.
Ben, he's going to have his luchador mask on.
She described it to the T.
After the body was discovered, Kathleen returned to her home in San Jose.
Oh, yeah, man. Richard Dawson used to be kissing every woman in a family on Family Feud.
And the police continue to search for Victoria's killing.
Handsy.
But 13 years later, the murderer is still at large. Sightings has brought Kathleen Ray back to Fresno, back to the place where Victoria's body was found, to get new psychic impressions.
When I go to the man that did this, he has stubby hands, and their hands of a laborer. I don't feel like he's here anymore. I want to go further south to a town start with an S, and that he's working down there now. This man is not very tall. I would say, oh, maybe 5'9". I feel this man has killed another child since then. There is a wife or a girlfriend he goes back to at times, and I feel like it's probably a wife, and he's not with her all the time, and she's frightened.
Yeah, the
him.
girl was killed.
She knows he's violent. Yeah. He could be a very violent person. And had we had a drawing of him like I can do now with the police artist, she'd have recognized him on television.
If you believe Kathleen Ray, this is a charcoal drawing of Victoria de Santiago's murderer. He killed Victoria, and Kathleen believes another child since then, and he's still out there.
I believe it could be solved. Somebody out there, somebody somewhere has got to know more about this. But they've never come forward.
Although Kathleen's work in this case proved to be
like
extremely
Fez
accurate,
from,
cases like this are the exception, not the rule. And the use of psychics in police investigations is still not accepted by many departments around the country.
Kathleen Ray's case was one of those cases. And the hits were so specific. And the data checked out
that was Super Dave
all the way down the line, from the reporters to the psychics themselves, to the families of the victims, to the police. It was rather unnerving.
But for the De Santiago family, a psychic detective made a difference. The discovery of their daughter 13 years ago has brought the family a small measure of peace.
Thank you, God. Thank you for finding Victoria's body. Thank you for giving me Kathleen Ray.
And now, they hope her vision of the killer will bring the case to a close.
My only
short, stubby hands.
Release of mental anguish is to say something positive, warn
It's a good
people.
sketch. Like, I'm impressed.
Look, they're not just going to steal your car. They're going to steal your child.
Is this the face of a...
Like, I feel like this looks like a person. A lot of the sketches look like, you know, an Oblivion NPC. Like, this looks like a dude. Like, I think you would recognize this guy if you saw him after you saw this.
Murderer. Kathleen Ray sees him in her mind's eye when she thinks of Victoria. If you have additional information about this crime, please contact the Fresno Police Department. Despite the good work of psychic detectives like Kathleen Ray, there are unscrupulous people posing as psychics who prey on unsuspecting families. How do you protect yourself? Well, experts suggest that you follow all recommendations of the police. And if you do contact psychics, Thoroughly check out their references.
The
Make sure they
Unabomber
don't have
sketch.
criminal records. And never give them...
I remember I was a kid whenever America's Most Wanted did the episode on the Unabomber, and like that sketch is so like burnt into my mind, like
money up front.
It was so
Coming up,
terrifying.
does an underwater creature terrorize the citizens of upstate New York?
I started screaming in fear.
Startling videotape may prove a monster lurks in Lake Champlain.
Champ is back.
Recently, sightings half a world apart have renewed interest in the possibility that lake monsters are real. At Loch Ness in Scotland, Operation Deep Scan tracked a large creature through the water for more than 2 miles. At Lake Champlain in New York State, a sightings crew has been monitoring strange lake activity reported by dozens of credible eyewitnesses. It's hard to imagine.
I know some of you guys sleep on Flexum, or you think she's just a, you know, spite replacement in the rotation. But she's got 2 great new videos. One of them, sorry, is yoga.
But the natural serenity of Lake Champlain is being disturbed by a monster reportedly lurking just below the surface of the lake. Sightings of a long serpent-like creature have been reported for nearly 300 years.
Flexum, the foot model, the mishazed replacement.
A pioneer's powder horn, dated September 29, 1700, bears the earliest recorded image of the Lake Champlain monster. Sightings have continued to the present day, but aren't often discussed in public.
Probably 99% of the people have seen it, but they won't talk about it because you do get some ridicule.
Lake Champlain is located on the border between New York and Vermont, extending northward into Quebec province
Ruby
in Canada.
could go there.
The locals have affectionately dubbed the monster Champ, but there is surprisingly little publicity or commercialism associated with this sea serpent. Only now, in the wake of new scientific information
He
about
saw someone
the Loch
being
Ness
murdered,
monster,
really?
have eyewitnesses felt that they won't be ridiculed for coming forward.
You could
Listen,
see
we'll take
underneath
you
the water.
seriously. Just
It was
come forward.
huge black mat. It was just monster. It was scary. It was that big. It was. You could see it had a definite body, shape of a body. Then you could see it definitely had a neck and a head. Then all of a sudden, up out of this water came this big black thing. I mean, it was huge, black and shiny. And then it went away. There wasn't a ripple or anything. And I got the pictures of it just going under the water, and you can see the little bumps.
I've read a book and I've seen a documentary about it, but I don't remember the ABC special, though. I'll have to remember that. Let me screen cap. I bet we could probably watch that. Since it's like if it's like a news report.
Bumps.
I started as a disbeliever. I went right on past being a believer into a knower. It's
Oh
4 of
my
us.
God,
We're
that's
out on
crazy,
the boat,
dude.
looking, just taking an evening sail. And it was at that point, with no expectations of anything, that
How
we
could you-
began
I
to see
don't even
some
know how
very
you do that.
strange things going on.
Up came the
Wait,
neck
none of
and
my
the head, literally
business.
like my hand is doing. It turned and it looked at me, and it turned and it went right back down into the water.
We took the camcorder out, and
I'll be
then,
right back.
in fact, Champ, or several Champs, were back again.
I started screaming in fear. I found myself climbing on the canvas top of my boat, which I know doesn't hold me. That's how scared I was.
At this point, my wife and daughter spot one of the creatures out in the distance, and I zoom in on it so that you can see it. And you can see one of its humps sticking up out of the water. There's 2. 2 in the middle is 4. 1 to the left out front is 5 in a row. And now what we spot out there is some fins or flippers, and you can see them flipping back and forth on the water.
While I was in the canoe heading to the boat, my daughter saw him. She said, "Dad, there's something out there." And I looked, and there was Champ, this neck and head.
Do what shit, please show this for a sketch. What do you mean? Thank you, though, for being a member for 2 months. Bob, enjoy your new little member icon.
Out of the water, moving towards Scott's bonnet. You see a creature with a long neck, and it looks like a Volkswagen's body when you first see it in the video.
What's the
It's
2 month
floating
thing
across
look
the
like?
water. And then
Is
it
it Grace
stops, and
drinking
it starts
a soda?
thrashing in the water, and you see a neck and head. And then he swings his neck around and lifts his tail up, swings his entire body around and lifts his neck and head out of the water entirely.
My wife and I were on our way to a picnic, and on the way I decided to pull over at a lookout point just to take some
Frank
scenic
Soriano.
view. I noticed something out in the distance about half mile out. At first, I thought it was a large tree stump. It wasn't bobbing. It was moving deliberately. And all of a sudden, I
Could
saw
be a
it,
Volkswagen bug
over,
out in the lake.
snake-like, and dive into the water.
Considering the varying locations of the sightings and
okay, what I don't know where this is the lake, right? It's not like is it connected directly to any like big, like there wouldn't be a whale in there. It can't, if it's closed off, it couldn't be a whale penis, right?
and the diversity of the witnesses, among them a teacher,
Which
a
is like one of the
therapist,
most common,
a restaurant owner, an engineer, a corrections officer.
debunking
the
theories.
possibility of a massive hoax is highly unlikely. Certainly, residents here are not trying to cash in on the lake monster's notoriety. There are no souvenir shops, no public references to the creatures sighted here. Champ Quest is one notable research organization
Yeah, so it
operating
can't
on
be
the
whale
lake,
penis, I
headed
don't
by Dennis Hall and his partner, Richard Dool.
The sole purpose is to
Oh, boy, look at this
collect
guy.
definitive evidence to prove the existence of the creatures.
Wow.
We are already convinced that they are real.
What a Wes Anderson
We have
character.
to
Double
present this to the
D's. Oh my
scientific
God,
community.
the boat's the
There
double
are some
D's.
very big specimens seen in the lake, eyewitness descriptions. The average size is 20 to 30 feet, but there have been sightings where it was seen much larger. There was a sighting this year on August 1st on the next point down on a place called Texaco Beach. And what we should do is look for some high mounds. There may be a feeding area around here.
Looking for high mounds
There's one
on
right
the double
about here.
Ds.
You're looking about 30 feet of water. Think you could
Whoa,
make
they're
a
all
dive
really
today?
close to each other.
Let's go see if he's home. All right. A lot of people believe that there's one wretched creature that's been in the lake for a millennia, and that's really absurd.
Whoa,
there would
Lake
have
Placid.
to be a breeding colony
alligator.
to subsist this long.
Despite numerous documented sightings, few scientists can agree on what type of creature Champ is likely to be. Theories range from a snake-like zeuglodon, thought to be extinct for the last 20 million years, to another extinct reptile, the plesiosaur.
There you go.
There's no geological evidence that plesiosaurs
Man,
or
wouldn't that
anything
be
like
so
that
cool?
survived beyond the Cretaceous extinction 60 million years ago. On the other hand, the coelacanth was
Oh
only
my
discovered
gosh, look at this guy.
in the late 1930s, that fish, and that had been extinct also for over 60 million years.
If it is a plesiosaur in Loch Ness and Lake Champlain, why would these creatures survive when so many others from those eras were extinct?
Crocodiles survived, and they can get up to 20 feet or more.
True.
Various groups survived. It's possible that in certain areas that some species may have survived the
house on
extinction,
Loch Ness.
especially when we're not really certain
Is there you think there's like somebody's made a video about that? I would watch something about that.
as to what caused the extinction. Loch Ness and Lake Champlain are very similar geologically. They're deep glacial lakes that were at one time arms of the sea. So one could say there were marine animals living in these open lakes, and as the land rose, they could have been sort of isolated. And it's the same geology in both lakes.
One of the most compelling pieces of evidence supporting the plesiosaur theory is this recently discovered 1938 photograph of a bizarre carcass removed from a whale's stomach. Some experts have speculated
like
that
Joe
this
Camel.
could be the skeleton of a baby
Yes,
plesiosaur.
I love
consumed
that. I
at
watched the
sea,
Netflix show. I
suggesting
thought
the
it was really
plesiosaur, like the coelacanth, may not really be extinct.
There may be all kinds of things there that we don't know about. The thing about it is, I think you have to keep an open mind and
She has to be
see
open-minded
what
to
else
try
comes up.
those earrings on.
Do monsters really exist?
I'd
Or
say
can these
something.
pictures be explained by existing natural phenomena, like otters feeding fish or fallen logs? Eyewitnesses believe wholeheartedly in the existence of Champ, but until indisputable evidence is brought to the scientific community, the monster of Lake Champlain will remain a mystery.
Coming up next, with the tragic fire at Windsor Castle, has the British family's royal curse struck again? The Queen speaks out in a special update.
Oh,
next.
more royal curse updates.
Recently on Sightings, we investigated a supposed curse placed on Britain's royal family. The curse dates back to the early 17th century, when members of the Ogilvy clan in Scotland were believed to have cast a spell.
Can we get a A24 elevated horror movie about the house on Loch Ness?
On the Queen Mother's family and all her descendants. The Queen Mother's ancestor, the Lord of Glom's, is rumored to have murdered several members of the Ogilvy family, leading to a curse and perhaps centuries of doom and misfortune.
The story says that what he did was to give them shelter in a small room, but then he closed them in, and eventually that room was walled up, and of course they died a terrible death.
In recent weeks, speculation about a royal curse has been...
You guys always give me grief because I'm getting high or I'm laughing when something terrible happens. Look at this guy. This guy is a professional.
That room was walled up, and of course they died a terrible death.
See?
In recent weeks, speculation about a royal curse has been increasing in Great Britain, especially in light of a string of tragedies that have befallen the royal family. Prince Charles and Princess Diana have now publicly admitted that their marriage has failed. And shortly after the news of Charles and Diana's impending separation, another tragic blow. The royal family's ancestral residence, Windsor Castle, went up in flames.
Oh my God.
The damage was extensive, and increased pressure has been placed on the royal family to assume some of the financial burden for reconstruction of the castle.
Has the right honourable gentleman ruled out contributions
Look at Donald
from the
Pleasance.
royal family? And would
Donald Pleasance is behind her. He's going to get up and speak on the importance of increasing security at Michael Myers mental facility.
he welcome such a contribution if it were offered?
Even Queen Elizabeth has come forward to address her country's concerns. In a rare display of emotion, the Queen publicly admitted that the royal family's problems are having a traumatic effect on the monarchy.
1992 is not a year on which I shall look back with undiluted pleasure. In the words of one of my more sympathetic correspondents,
Powerful ritual.
it has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
If the royal family is being plagued by a centuries-old curse, then it has come dangerously close to fulfilling its evil intent.
Halloween.
It was a curse, after all, that some say was meant to destroy the House of Windsor and ultimately bring down the last...
He was in a great movie with with Charles Bronson called Telephone, Telefon. It's amazing. Fantastic, like underrated Charles Bronson movie, completely batshit crazy.
Great monarchy on Earth. We'll keep you updated in future.
Somebody angrily commented the other day on my review of it, saying that it was much more plausible than I was saying. Like I don't know if they took the review like super seriously or what, but they were like, this could actually happen.
Traditions of sightings.
If you've experienced what you believe to be paranormal activity in the form of UFOs, ghosts, or psychic experiences, our Sightings investigative team wants to know about it.
To report your sightings, call 1-900-740-SIGHT. Each call 75 cents a minute.
Queen
Average call
goes
lasts 2
doggy.
minutes, and you must be 18 years or older. On the next Sightings, does the ghostly victim of a brutal murder still haunt this country music hall? Our Sightings investigators stalk the ghost of Hell's
I gotta
Gate.
see that one. All right, let's watch
Then,
one
whether
more.
you believe in guardian angels or not, don't
I gotta see the haunted country western bar.
subjects. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings.
I'm your guardian angel.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
Whether you believe in angels or not, you'll be surprised by these amazing real-life encounters.
Whatever it was, it must have been some sort of miracle.
Then, our team of ghost investigators hunts for the sinister force haunting this Kentucky music hall, plus astrological predictions for the new year.
Kentucky Music Hall. I've been watching a lot of Martin Lawrence movies lately. I watched Big Mama's House. I can't believe they were marketed as like family-friendly movies back in the
Welcome
day.
to Sightings. I'm Tim White.
So
It is
nuts.
considered
They're
to be
crazy
the most haunted
movies, though.
place in Kentucky, a country music club called Music World that's been plagued by supernatural activity. Why Music World? Well, some believe it's because the club was built on a site where gruesome murder occurred. And because the murder was rumored to be part of a satanic ritual.
Who
area has
built the
been dubbed
honky tonk
Hell's
on a
Gate.
Hell Gate? Come on,
This
guys.
building, on the site known as Hell's Gate, was built more than 100 years ago and now houses Bobby Mackey's Music World. a country western bar and dance club in Wilder, Kentucky. The patrons here come for a good time, oblivious to the building's evil past.
They got a built-in
They do not know that once
mechanical
this
bull.
was a slaughterhouse, and later a place where some say satanic rituals and murder occurred.
Satanic worshipers went there at night to worship and praise the devil due to the blood that was spilled there from the dead animals. Their blood was poured into a well. The well is known as Hell's Gate.
Wow, what a
The
camera angle.
slaughterhouse,
Whoa, he just
closed
disappeared.
since 1938, and the bloody
What an
well,
ominous
now sealed,
person.
are just two examples of the evil that has plagued this site since the 19th century.
In 1896, a girl named Pearl Bryant was beheaded somewhere in that area. Two men, Alonzo Walling and Scott Jackson, were arrested for that crime. People still
Drugs,
today
they
talk
claim.
about Alonzo Walling and Scott Jackson
Head
refusing
cut
to tell
off.
the whereabouts
What
of
a
Pearl's
news
head
story.
while they had the nooses around their neck. The judge had offered them a life sentence, opposed to
Head
death if
cut
they would
off.
tell the whereabouts of her head. They refused.
Wanted a
Rumors
head.
that have abounded here for years
A web.
is simply that these two men were satanic worshipers, and her
Satanic.
head was given as a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice to the devil, and they would rather die than suffer Satan's wrath.
Newspaper accounts revealed that Pearl had been 5 months pregnant and that the father was one of her killers. Today, several witnesses claim that the headless woman and her two murderers still haunt Music World.
I felt something was trying to get me out of here. And there was always a voice saying, get out, get out.
Many people have sworn they've seen the form of a headless girl floating through the nightclub, moving through the crowd when the band's up on the stage playing.
I came in here one night, and when it was closing time and the jukebox was unplugged, it was playing the anniversary waltz.
I won't come in here unless I have to.
Oh
by
my
myself,
God.
Because this is
Wow.
a
Look at this guy.
very dark, eerie, weird feeling building.
Sightings recently
Was he on
conducted a
American
detailed
Pickers?
investigation with
I could
paranormal
believe it,
experts Dr. William
based on what
Roll
we're hearing.
and Dr. Dean Radin. They brought equipment designed to sense and measure the presence of abnormal
Look at that Miss
energy at the site.
Pac-Man.
It's not only brains or minds that hold memories.
Dr. William,
physical space
William
also
Roll.
holds something like memories or traces. This is something that I don't think can be explained away in terms of simpler theories, can't be explained away in terms of magnetic fields or radiation. I think that it's something of a genuine parapsychological nature.
Sightings also brought in noted psychic Echo Bodine, who had
Echo
no previous
Bodine,
knowledge
okay.
about Hell's Gate or Music World. As soon as she walked into
They
the
found a
building,
head in a box?
Echo had strong psychic
Wow.
impressions.
There's a psychic image of a lot of blood in this room. A
What
lot
a
of blood.
experience.
A lot of hatred. There's an image of a man and a woman downstairs. Again, a man with dark hair and a woman who's afraid. He knows what he's doing. He's been here long enough. The feeling is that he tries to scare people, especially
Echo
women.
Bodine.
Seems like he
Jethro's sister.
doesn't like women messing with his property. There's definitely an energy here that does not want me to do any of this. All right? I mean, it's really strong.
When our experts sat down to compare notes with some of the witnesses at Music World, an alarming discovery was made. Pearl and her murderers may not be the only spirits haunting this establishment. Our team discovered that there are others
Fancy
who met
mullet.
with violent death here.
There's been definitely violent death in this place, and sad death. I kept hearing voices crying about the broken dreams of this place.
The psychic's impressions of broken dreams may refer to star-crossed lovers who reportedly met here in the 1930s. Their romance ended in tragedy, and some believe there is a link between their untimely death and the other apparitions that haunt Hell's Gate.
After the property
What a
changing hands
story
several
this is.
times, the building became a gambling casino. There was a dance hall girl there named Johanna. She became pregnant by a man named Robert Randall, who was a singer at the club. Her father supposedly had Robert Randall killed. This was according to a diary that was found inside the nightclub. She consequently poisoned her father and herself and committed suicide inside the same nightclub. Johanna, according to the diary, was 5 months pregnant.
5 months pregnant, just like Pearl Bryan, the first known victim of Hell's Gate.
Yeah, I've been to pretty much every cemetery that's within like driving distance of here that has anything like haunted reputation to it. I sat in like all of the like cursed like devil's chairs and shit like that. I would love to do it again though. If it's hard to make that kind of content interesting though, because most of the time there's like nothing, nothing going on.
Gate. Then we discovered that the dead lovers of the 1930s had a link not only to the past, but to the present as well. There was an eerie connection between one of the lovers, Robert Randall, and current club owner, Bobby Mackey.
I went to Bobby Mackey and discussed this with him. I learned that Bobby Mackey's original name was Randy. At 1 day old,
I
his
got
umbilical
high in
cord,
every one of them,
where
too.
the doctor had severed it, had ruptured, and he almost died. For some unknown reason, his mother changed his name to Robert Randall Mackey. Robert Randall, the
High
same
in every
name as the
cemetery.
singer.
At first, Bobby Mackey ignored the story of the eerie similarity.
Another reflection music
and
video.
I told him, in fact, to keep quiet about it. I didn't want it getting around because I had everything I owned stuck in here. And I had to make a success of this some way or another. And then my wife started bringing it up.
You hate being overly
Janet
teased
Mackey
before a
told
bang.
her husband that she had just survived a terrifying encounter with an unknown force. She was 5 months pregnant at the time.
Something had grabbed me around the waist. It seemed like it was trying to attack my child. Okay. And it picked me up and like threw me back down. Then when that happened, something grabbed my head. It was kind of forcing me down.
Yeah, absolutely,
I got away from
Junk.
it. And when I got to the top of the stairs, there was pressure behind me, pushing me down the steps. And when I looked back up, the voice was screaming, "Get out, get out."
Janet's frightening paranormal encounter triggered an early labor, but miraculously the baby survived. Considering the string of evil deeds connected to this site and the well that still lies buried beneath
What's
it,
up, Story
was
Weaver
Janet's
Steve?
experience a warning? Are the Mackeys the next link in a chain of tragedy at this site? With a thriving business and a healthy...
Bobby Mackey's like, you'll never believe all the wild, awesome stuff that happened here. Anyway, the place is for sale.
healthy child, Bobby Mackey refuses to believe that his family is a target of Hell's Gate.
I don't believe such things could
Blame
happen.
it on the
I've
ghost,
never
absolutely.
experienced anything
I do think
in
that
this
Thorpe
building
should do ghost content.
that
It
would
be
make me
interesting.
believe there's a ghost.
Bobby Mackey claims that he does not believe that Music World or the well is haunted. But beginning in April of 1993, Mackey will fill in the well, demolish Music World, and rebuild it on property that he's just purchased, property that's only 100 feet south of the original Music World site.
Coming up next,
I'm your guardian angel.
people who claim they've had amazing real-life encounters with angels.
Whatever it was, must have been some sort of miracle.
Do you believe in angels? Do you think a guardian
You
angel
don't trust
has
Bobby
saved you
Mackey?
from harm? Well, according to recent Gallup polls, half of all Americans and 3/4 of all teenagers believe in the existence of angels. Of those who claim to have seen an angel, 50% believe that what they saw was a guardian angel who had come
Yeah, my computer is real slow, so I have like a 30-second delay.
to save
Whoops.
their life.
Why'd you want to save me?
Grace could cry and
What I
get
was
donuts.
sent down for. I'm your guardian
Cemetery struggle session.
angel. I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
In the classic film, It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart plays George Bailey, a man who is prevented from taking his own life by Clarence, his own guardian angel.
I don't know whether I like it very much being seen around with an angel without any wings.
Oh, I've got to earn them.
Haunted McDonald's, I don't know.
Sure. How?
By letting me help you.
I'll start
The belief
asking
in
them.
angels as spiritual beings who can intervene in human affairs has been around for centuries. But now there is an explosion of new interest in the subject. 50 books about angels have been published in just the past 2 years, and most Americans now admit they are believers.
I got scared a second
latest
thinking about a
Gallup poll
haunted
shows
McDonald's.
that 65% of us believe in angels. 75% of us who are between the ages of 18 and 25 believe in angels.
AIDS, a troublesome economy,
Hey, Bill
a high
McDonald.
divorce rate, changing sex roles. All of these things make for an uncertain world.
He looks like the kind of guy who would be in the promo photo on a how to learn to use a computer book.
And I think that people are turning to angels in an attempt to find security, power,
Michael Landon
control,
is all the
meaning
proof
in
we
their
need.
lives.
While some people actively search, others believe their guardian angel appeared in a moment of need.
First thing I remember about falling was I looked to the side. I didn't think I was falling as fast as I should be. And so I looked down for the ground, and I was trying to turn over, and I heard a voice, and she was saying, "Don't look down, don't look down." And there was a girl that was about where my waist was, and she was in an upright position. She had a long white nightgown on, and she had long flowing hair. She said, "Don't look down, you'll get hurt. Look at me, you'll be okay."
He doesn't remember the impact. He remembers laying on the ground and feeling very peaceful, and until somebody picked him up, and then his shoulder hurt. I took him to the doctors, and the doctor pointed to him and said he fell the safest way possible. He impacted his shoulder and broke his collarbone. He said anything else would have done major damage.
Wes Chandler was 4 when he fell out of the tree, but it wasn't until many years later that he would tell anyone about the angel that he'd seen.
I could
90s
sense that there was
ASMR.
something
I
he wasn't
met my
telling
guardian
me.
angel.
There is a conspiracy of silence in this country as far as paranormal phenomena is concerned. People
Yeah, you
keep
never
these
hear
stories
about it,
close to
buddy.
the vest for fear of ridicule.
Angels at the time were not part of our vocabulary, but this certainly meets my description of what an angel would be.
I think that it tends to be a physiologic event.
Oh,
Sort
wow.
of like a hallucination, but not as vague as a hallucination would be.
Tens of millions of people are claiming to have had these experiences. Are they all deluded? Are they all experiencing the same hallucination? If you have people who are pathologically hallucinating, you get individual, random, chaotically random stories. You don't have stories falling into a pattern.
His dad
I
was
don't know that I
80?
deserve
Wow.
some help, but for some reason I got some help from somebody.
We were at a pool party, and we had fastened water wings on
Yeah, I do believe in the lull angels for sure.
Daniel because he couldn't swim.
And Bethadone Clinic is proof that angels exist, of course.
Somehow, and we really don't know when.
Even if
he
she's
took
not
the
an
water wings
official
off.
lull angel yet.
And he ended up in the deep end of
Speaking
the
of
pool.
angels, look at this lady.
He was just laying down there in this little ball. And it was just like I was frozen. I could only get halfway. And I couldn't move. And I knew I couldn't breathe down there. And I just came up. I knew somebody else was going to have to do it.
Daniel was rescued by his father, who administered CPR. When Daniel came to, he told his mother about his vision of an angel.
He said, "Did you know that there was an angel and there was a bright light?"
I don't
and the
rank
angel and the bright light were inside a
robot
tunnel.
Glock.
This
That's-
local television interview with Daniel took place just a week after his near drowning.
A tunnel with a light inside and an angel.
Children seem to have a
Ooh, Jane Curtin.
natural affinity for wonder. They're not old enough to have had all of that taken out of them. And so they're very open to the
These
kinds
are all
of
very
things that
tasteful.
apparitions bring.
On March 30th, 1989, Estela Rodriguez was struck by an out-of-control ice cream.
If you're entering any of these scenarios and you're like you have a caveat of XYZ has to be fixed or whatever before, like that's never gonna happen.
Cream truck. Estela believes it was an angel who prevented her from feeling any pain, despite great bodily injury.
The ice cream truck just came fast, and I saw him so close. It was so close that I could see his face, and I did not know what to do. But then I said with all my heart, God,
I think Ruby and Lowe are too civil or too like close for like the NET to come out on LOL Angels.
don't let me die. And
I don't know, is it
right
LOL
after
Angels
that,
or is it
I saw
LOL Angels?
this beautiful, beautiful person. It was a male, and he was like when you see somebody in slow motion, just coming towards me at the same speed as the truck, but his hands were like this, stretched to me.
When she was hit, Estela suffered extensive injuries and lost her leg as a result. But Estela maintained she felt no
Look at this
pain,
guy, man. I
either
wouldn't fuck with
during
him.
or after the accident.
I had no idea that I had lost my leg. I had broken ribs. I had a collapsed lung. And you know, I'm a registered nurse.
But people can benefit from having like positive experiences and positive people around them. So maybe over time you could affect positive change if that's how you saw it, maybe. But like making any kind of demands probably wouldn't go well with a lot of the kind of people that we watch.
And I have seen people with a collapsed lung and losing as much blood as I lost. And they had come to the hospital unconscious. I was conscious when I went to the hospital. I did not feel pain. I had peace with me.
If guardian angels really do exist, why do they appear to some while others are left to suffer? It's one of the great theological riddles yet to be answered.
My experience tells me that we have to get into enough pain in our lives before we're ready to move into healing and into transformation.
I had a lot of hate. I reeked in hate.
Oh boy, look at this character,
My eyes
man.
were black from what I've been told.
Jake the Snake.
He was a hellraiser. He was constantly in trouble.
All the people on
He
this
was
show
slowly
are
working his
so
way to either
awesome.
to prison or to be dead.
Daryl Cochran was an alcoholic and a drug addict who had been in and out of
God, what a
prisons, mental
picture.
institutions, and drug treatment programs since he was 14 years old.
Oh my God.
Nothing worked
Oh
for
my
Daryl.
gosh.
He was living on the streets in 1987 when he found out his brother had been murdered
This guy's
execution style
fantastic.
during a drug deal gone awry.
I was on
Drug
like
deal
a
gone
5-day
awry.
bender, nonstop. And I remember sitting in my living room and the pain, the ungodly pain. And I fell on my hands and knees on the floor, and I was puking blood.
Very Old West vibes.
And as I was puking blood, I was thinking of my mother and my father and my kids
He would be played by Dwight Yoakam in the movie, I think.
and Kathy, my wife that I was in love with. And I was thinking about Mike and I at a stream when we were boys fishing.
Victim of
And all a
fermented
sudden,
beverages.
I felt a warmth, an incredible warmth all over me. And when I looked up, I can't believe the incredible brilliance of light. It's like if you had the rays of a sun on a really hot day and a rainbow mixed together. In the midst of it, there was an outline of a being. All of a sudden, there was a voice, and it said, "You have been chosen to be a light to others."
Peter Dinklage.
And I knew then.
What a great
I'd
story,
finally
though.
flipped. I'd lost it. Gone right over the edge. The next thing I remember
Oh man, he's tearing up.
was this incredible feeling of peace.
On the day Daryl claims to
Wow.
have seen his guardian angel,
Post-nut
his
clarity.
life did change dramatically. He immediately stopped using drugs and alcohol. He designed an anti-drug
whoever
program
cut
for
his hair
teenagers
was on
and has
drugs,
since
though.
devoted his life to public service, receiving commendations from Presidents Carter and Reagan. Did an angel turn Daryl's life around?
Double. That's what got my
Whatever it was, must have been
attention.
some
The
sort of
double
miracle.
rainbow.
Daryl believes that his guardian angel or a guardian angel appeared to him and with some sort of communication from the angel induced a transformation.
This silhouette in this brilliance of light. It was like a being that was just outlined, glowing, that said to me, "You have been chosen." Me, a drunk guy, I've been chosen. I have a guardian angel in my life, and it goes before me, behind me, beside me. It prepares.
What a promo this
everything
guy
ahead
has.
for me.
For those who believe they've been touched by an encounter with angels, no other evidence is necessary. But for many, angels remain nothing more than whimsical fantasy.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right.
What a
That's right.
what a positive story.
Coming
for a
up,
change
astrological predictions for the new year.
It looks to me like one of those years they're going to make T-shirts about. It's going to be I Survived 1993.
Oh boy.
The cliche icebreaker was, what's your sign? And since then, astrology has gotten a reputation for being a questionable fringe science. But there are people who take it very seriously. and have compelling evidence that the
he wants
stars
to wet
and
his
planets
beak, the guardian
can
angel.
affect our lives. Perhaps it's just a sign of the times, but interest in astrology is greater today than at any time in this century. Psychic astrologer Richard Nolly has been conducting personal
We need Jimmy
consultations for
here
the
for
past
this.
20 years, and his clients, numbering in the thousands, believe in his predictive abilities.
Genuine astrology is based on calculations
Richard
of the
Knoll.
exact positions of not only the sun, but also the moon and all of the known planets at the exact moment that you came into this world, the exact time, date, and place of your birth. And you end up with a map that is as uniquely individual as your own fingerprints. Astrology offers them, through this paradox of looking out into space, a way of finding out who they are inside. And that's why people
We need to consult the witches on all this stuff. Find out what's real and what's, you know, what's just bunk.
have come to it so strongly.
Nolly uses computer technology to improve his speed and accuracy, but he believes that it is his psychic powers that set his predictions apart.
Successful astrologers always rely on their psychic intuition as an aid to reading
Look at
a
all
chart.
this cool tech.
Nolly
Oh my
claims
God.
a successful prediction rate of 80%, including 2 major earthquakes and the outbreak of the Gulf War. So Sightings
predicted
asked for
the
his
Gulf
predictions
War?
for 1993.
We're going to have another major seismic
Why aren't there more
upheaval,
witches?
probably California. The economy is not going to get back on track real fast. Within 18 months, Castro is history. It looks to me like one of those years they're going to make T-shirts about. It's going to be I Survived 1993.
There's got to be a
Is
bunch
this
of witches
view of
on TikTok. I would
1993
think.
shared by others? Sightings is assembling a panel of expert astrologers and psychics.
This guy's totally not
who will bring you
wasted.
their
Not if he's
predictions on
getting
an
paid.
upcoming edition of Sightings.
If you've experienced
I'm
what
sure
you
he's
believe
doing
to
it
be
as a
paranormal
like,
activity,
selling his
or if
services.
you have a specific prediction for the coming year, we'd like to know about it.
To report your sightings or prediction, call 1-900-740-SIGHT. Each call 75 cents a minute. Average call lasts 2 minutes, and you must be 18 years or older. Again, the Sightings hotline is 1-900-740-7483.
Story.
On the
Double
next
rainbow.
Sightings, have our shuttle astronauts captured photographic proof of real Star Wars between extraterrestrial...
All right, this will have to be the preview for the next session. I gotta go, but I want to watch the preview.
terrestrials in our military? Then, what are the bizarre balls of light over Marfa, Texas? We investigate
Oh,
on the
more of
next
the Marfa
Sightings.
lights.
Join us next time for new investigations
Wow.
into the unexplained. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
All right, guys, I gotta go. Thank you for hanging out, checking out the. We're really expanding out. We're learning about angels. We're learning about Champ. We're learning about the Royal Curse. I feel like we're really educating ourselves on things that were like super relevant 30 years ago, which is still something, I think. But thank you. I do appreciate you hanging out, and I'll be here tomorrow for. I'm gonna try. We're gonna jump back into OVW right where we left off. I'm gonna put all my overlays on and shit. So we'll just see how it goes. If that doesn't work, we'll figure something out. But I want to give it at least one more try. So thanks for hanging out. Hopefully I'll see you soon.